Okay, so we're calling the open session meeting back into session at 6:36 PM on August the 6th. So welcome, everybody. So to be considerate of the crowd we've got tonight, which this is a crowd for us, we're going to rearrange a little bit. So we're going to put public comment down a little bit right before reports. We're going to start out with the transfer station hearing first, and then we're going to go to all the appointments. So come on up, Bill.
Thank you. Good evening, Bill Cundiff, DPW Superintendent. Tonight we have a few minor edits to the transfer station rules and regulations. In your packet, you should have.
Hey, Bill, let Mark read the hearing notice first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to be.
Yeah, I'll be brief, Bill. Southborough Select Board shall hold a public hearing Tuesday, August 6, 2024, 6:30 PM in the hearing room, Southborough Townhouse, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. To consider proposed revisions to transfer station rules and regulations for FY25, including potential changes to the fees charged for transfer station stickers. Interested citizens may attend and provide their comments. Online participation is also permitted. Can be found by visiting the virtual meeting page on the town website, www.southboroughtown.com/674/virtual meetings.
Bill.
Sure, thank you. So as I was saying, we have a few edits. Most of it is cosmetic and, grammatical type changes, but there were a few things that were omitted that hopefully we can catch and the board will view as, spelling type errors. So we can correct those now. So the first has to do with the introduction paragraph. It's just language changes on, I'll read it. Used to say gate at entrance and exit will be closed. We changed that to facility closes, just to be concise. And then we restructured parts of the remaining portion of that paragraph, just to make sure that, more as a direction for staff to politely suggest to the users of the facility that we're closing at 6 PM. And it reminds the users to, leave adequate time so that they can unload their materials prior to 6 PM when the facility closes. We did add the last sentence.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not getting any sound here.
We're
Okay.
good?
What about now, Al?
Got it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next section has to do with the permit fee schedule. We're increasing the first permit for non-senior residents, and this was voted by the board previously from $275 to $285.
And just to reiterate what a senior is at this point?
Senior residents who are owners of record of a Southborough residence, a leasee or renter who will turn age of 65 on or before 12/31/24. Inability to pay, I basically just took that long link and shortened it. So it's easier to use. Moving down to the bottom, this is something that we view as an administrative change. Under vehicles, residential vehicle descriptions, item B, pickups. It used to say all single rear wheel pickup trucks. We'd like to change that to rear axle pickup trucks. Moving along, we have some date changes under Household Hazardous Waste Day. We're basically changing the dates from last year's date to this year's date, which is October 19th, 2024. And then we have a few straggling selectmen references under violations and fines. There's about 3 of them that need to be changed from selectmen to select board. And that's the extent of the changes.
Not bad. Okay, before we see if there's anybody in the public that wants to comment, Marguerite, any questions? Sam?
Yeah, on the violation and fines thing there, the last line in
What section?
on page 3, bottom of page 3, there's an indentation problem. Last part is 36.9. Last piece of that actually should be
Sure, we'll
split
fix
over.
that.
So
Formatting.
Just formatting.
Yep.
No other problem. Thanks.
And who says we're micromanagers? Okay, and anything else, Sam?
That's
Oh, I
why I get the
appreciate it.
big bucks.
Anything else? You're done? Andrew?
Thanks, Bill. I just want to ask you a question on the general where you inserted, I guess to emphasize, commercial refuse will not be accepted. Have you found that that's a problem?
Sam and I had a conversation earlier today. I've seen instances firsthand where I suspect we have commercial users. How you go about proving that is a different matter. So I've asked the operators to start documenting some of these suspect vehicles. And in that vein, I'd like to not so much isolate an individual, but come up with patterns of behavior that we might be able to address at a subsequent meeting. But in ways we can better identify violators of this type of activity. And I have a few ideas that I haven't presented yet, but that could help us. But I want some hard evidence before right now it's speculative at best.
Okay, well, I think that's a good change to have in here, and I'm fine with all of the changes that you suggest, although the change about the description of pickups in here, is that shown in red line on the?
It is not. It is
Okay.
not. And again, I think that could be viewed as a clerical or typographic error. I
Yeah.
think the intent is clear as to what we're trying to mean there.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Actually,
Al, hold on a second. So staying with what Andrew said, where are commercial people supposed to dump their whatever, their trash, their grass, whatever? Where are they supposed to do it? Private haulers?
Typical private haulers, that's one method. Usually if there's a commercial activity, they might get a roll-off box and then a private hauler will come collect the box. Or they'll have a permit with a commercial transfer station like Harvey, for example.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's all I've got. Al?
yeah, the question of the single axle versus single wheel would clearly then allow somebody with what is commonly known as a dually to use the dump.
It has one axle, 4 wheels on that one axle, right, Al?
That's correct.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of pickup trucks that have that I think to me, the weight limit is the thing. And I don't think you're going to get one of those pickups with more than 11,500 pounds, even though with a two wheels per side.
No, that's a pretty big truck. 11,500 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, is that it, Al?
Yep.
All right. Any public comments on this, as far as the artists, come on up. So yeah, just go there and introduce yourself.
My name's Mike Canova from 41 Highland Street. The question has to do with commercial vehicles, because I drive one. Is it my understanding now that if you have a commercial license plate, you will not be allowed to go into the transfer station?
That is not the intent. The intent is if it's commercial waste, then you would be prohibited from the transfer
So
station.
it has nothing to do with the 9 letters that say commercial.
That's correct.
Okay, that's it.
Mhm. So Vanessa, you want to bring over who's in the audience? Okay, all right, okay. Any other questions before we close the hearing? Okay, all right. Sean Rose? Sean, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can, very well, so go ahead.
I have one comment. Can we put in the rules about the rules for the yard waste where no bags or paper bags are allowed in there? I know we put up signs there, but it's not in the official rules.
So I think that's a good comment. However, I think that is beyond the scope of what we've proposed. I don't think that's a clerical or editorial thing. We can definitely catch up on that next year.
So Sean, the way this works, we have to post this 7 days ahead of time as far as what we're proposing. So therefore, what's being proposed is what we're voting on. So we can't change it tonight, but what Bill said is he will add that for his list for next year.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else before we close the hearing? All right, Samuel, make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll move that we close the hearing.
Second?
Roll call vote, Marguerite? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Lucas, aye, 5-0 to close the hearing. Okay, now, Samuel, make a motion to approve the changes to the transfer station rules and regulations that we have in front of us.
As amended.
Okay.
Here
so
tonight,
amended,
yeah.
Okay,
Second.
So moved. Yeah.
roll call vote, Marguerite? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
And Cook is aye, 5-0. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right,
Have a
finally,
good night,
right?
everyone.
3 times the charm.
Yeah.
All right, where is our police chief? There he is. Come on up, Chief Newell, and welcome, as always. So you have good news tonight.
Yes.
Good. Nice to see everybody here always.
Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm here to request the appointment of Mr. Anthony Vega and Mr. Andrew Wayman to the position of full-time police officer within the Southborough Police Department. We interviewed multiple candidates for these open positions, and both Mr. Vega and Mr. Wayman did an outstanding job in their interviews with us. They have both successfully passed their background investigations, physicals, and psychological examination.
Hey.
Mr. Vega, Anthony, if you want to raise your hand. Mr. Vega is a resident of Worcester, Mass. He is currently working as a full-time police officer for the town of Paxton. He graduated from the MPTC Full-Time Police Academy in May of this year. Mr. Wayman is a resident of Westboro, Mass. He is currently working as a full-time police officer for the WPI Police Department and also as a reserve officer for the Westboro Police Department. He also earned his bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Worcester State University as well. We are excited to have both Mr. Vega and Mr. Wayman as part of our team. And with your expected appointment tonight, we look forward to having them begin their field training program with us by mid-August as probationary officers. Mr. Vega would be sworn into his position by August 13th, and Mr. Wayman would be sworn into his position by August 19th. With this addition to our department roster, this would bring our number of sworn officers to full staff, which we're very excited about.
It is truly great. So welcome, guys.
Yes. So at this time, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wayman or Mr. Vega?
Marguerite? Sam?
Nope, resumes look good. Delighted to have both individuals on board here. Very exciting. Thank you.
Andrew?
And thanks for joining us. It's a great town. You'll be joining a great department with outstanding leaders, and look forward to your success in Southborough.
Al?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Same for me. So now, did Chief Newell tell you that you have to give a speech? Do you know that's part of this? Okay. All right. Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, so this is great. So truly welcome. We really do have a great police department. You've got a great chief, you've got a great lieutenant, you got a beautiful building to work out of. A very nice town. So we're really glad that you're back at full force for the moment. So, okay, so anything else you want to say before we vote to appoint?
I do have to request an appointment of one more, but I'll wait till after this.
Okay, so let's do these two, then we'll do her. Okay, all right. Sam, you want to make the motion to appoint both gentlemen?
Move that we appoint Anthony Vega as a full-time police officer and Andrew Hammond as a full-time police officer.
Second,
Roll call vote. Marguerite? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
aye.
Al?
Aye.
And Cook is aye 5-0. So are your families here tonight? So you want to recognize them? Huh? Okay, so let's see who where's yours? No, this is part of, oh my goodness, that's quite a gang. Okay, so that's your baby? Yeah. Okay, well,
Junior police
very
officer.
cute, very cute. Is anybody here with you? Oh, you look cute little girl too. So thank you guys. So welcome, and I hope this is a very successful commitment for you. So thank you for coming. Okay, one more.
Additionally, I would like to request the appointment of Ms. Marlo Taylor to the full-time dispatcher position. She would be filling one of the two full-time dispatcher positions that were approved through town meeting. She is currently a part-time dispatcher with us in the middle of training right now. And when the open full-time position opened up, she immediately applied, which we're very happy about. She's a great part of our team, and we look forward to working with her as well. So for tonight, I'm requesting her appointment to the full-time dispatcher position as well, Marlo Taylor.
And she's not here tonight?
She's not here tonight. She's a Northborough resident, stay-at-home mom, and she has her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Pioneer Pacific College.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay. Any questions about Ms. Taylor? Al, any questions?
The one question I have is really for the chief, and I'm very pleased that he's able to make this hire. So does this mean that we now have one full-time and one part-time vacancy still in place?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We still have the active advertisements out right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Sam, you want to make the motion to appoint Marlo Taylor?
I'll move that we appoint Ms. Marlo Taylor as full-time communications officer.
Second,
Roll call vote. Marguerite? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
aye.
Al?
Aye.
Cook is aye 5-0. So congratulations, Marlo.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Ray, for coming as always.
Thank you. Gonna get pictures here now? Maybe. Okay, good. Good.
So congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a couple minute recess while the room clears out.
Hi, Grant.
So Jane, are you here? Okay, hi, Jane. I just don't know. I know your names, but I don't know your faces yet. Okay, so Jane's here. Nicole? Okay, that's great. And Caitlin? Hey, there you go. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're back in session at 6:56. All right, so now we will continue with, sorry.
You want to go ahead with the others and then go back to Sherry?
So Sherry's not over yet, Vanessa? So we can do the two that are here. Looks like she's here. Sherry, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
All right, great. Hi.
Hi, how are all of you?
All right, so I think most of us know Sherry. She's been a conservation agent, I believe, in Westboro. She's been on Concom before. She's quite experienced and is highly recommended by Concom. Anyone? Sorry. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do it again. So where you going, Vanessa? Okay.
The sand.
Oh, I thought he was sitting, sorry. I thought he actually was sitting over there. Ew.
I don't know if you're aware, but the screen doesn't show all you folks either yet.
No, you didn't know. Who do you see, Sherry?
I just see it says Southborough Select Board is in recess and will return. There you are.
All right, now we're back in session at 6:58. Okay, do it again. So welcome, Sherry. We're going to start with Sherry Wittes. Sherry is applying to be on Concom. She's got quite a resume as far as this goes. She's highly recommended by Concom. Most of us know her. Anyone want to ask any questions of Sherry? Marguerite?
No.
Sam?
Very glad to have you back. Thank you.
Sherry, this is Andrew Dennington. Thanks very much. I fully support your application for the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
There she is. Al, anything for Sherry?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple questions. First, thank you for volunteering. My concern or my question really relates to the farm and the Chestnut Hill Farm.
Yeah.
And the Conservation Commission's oversight of that, and the fact that Chestnut Hill Farm is no longer a farm. It's as you know, the trustees have ceased agricultural activities on that property and have not been able to give us any indication one way or the other what their plans are. The Conservation Commission is responsible for overseeing the conservation restriction. And the conservation restriction is potentially got some terms in it which make operating that property as a farm more challenging. In particular, I'm thinking of the 51% requirement, where 51% of the produce of the products have to be produced on that farm. I've spoken to town council who says that the Conservation Commission has a pretty broad authority to waive that requirement, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and what the Conservation Commission can do to help return farming to that activity. I mean, I want to point out that there are now more farms in Framingham than there are in Southborough.
Well, Al, it's nice to meet you, and wow, you threw me right in the fire.
Well, this is
Yeah,
important.
I have some thoughts on that. I like to preface all of it with, I really would love to read the conservation restriction with this new background that I've learned, and I haven't yet since I've done this position. So before I get real deep on it, and I think it would be wonderful to have a discussion with the commission and then have a joint discussion with the select board to see what everyone's views are, because I understand how much my current job can help in this. As far as if you're talking about a 51%, and from what I remember, if that is to get lower, it's technically a loss of Article 97 land, and so that would be an amendment to the conservation restriction in my eyes. So it's something that the town could pursue, but it would have to go through the Secretary's of Environmental Affairs office, and then that could be pursued as an option by the farm. They couldn't pursue lower than 51 until that point.
Okay, that was not consistent with what town council said, but
And I'd
yeah.
have to read it because I don't know how that's worded
Uh,
exactly, but if it's worded as a, like, you must, then it's usually you must, and if you're not, then you're in non-compliance with the conservation restriction, in which case then there's a whole set of how-tos to get back into compliance.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that the select board can do as well to promote farming on that property. And should that should we be asked, I think the select board would be very interested in doing so. But this is one that clearly falls into the bailiwick of the Conservation Commission, and I'm going to try and sensitize you that
Yeah.
I would like to get my grandchildren to be able to go and see what a farm actually looks like, and they can't do that in Southborough anymore.
I fully understand
Okay.
that, and yeah, happy to talk offline about this.
Okay,
All right, Al, do you have another question for Sherry?
that was my soapbox.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
Boxes are okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, Sam, you want to make the motion?
I'll move that we appoint Sherry Wittes to the Conservation Commission, term to expire 6/30/2027.
Second,
Roll call vote. Marguerite?
Landry, I.
Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
aye.
Al?
Hi,
And Cook is aye, 5-0. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you all. It's
Welcome
fun.
back. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so the next two are Cultural Arts Council. So we got Jane listed. First. So Jane, you want to, yeah, can you come to the table? Yeah, the microphone's on. So since I don't know, does anybody else know Jane? Right, so tell us a little bit about you. Why are you interested in the Cultural Arts Council? We're glad you are, but what is it? What is it that appeals to you about this committee?
All right, I'm going to start off with a warning. I talk too much.
It's okay.
So
Some of us
If
do
I
as well, so. you're
if
good
I
company.
start going on a little bit, just do this or some fairly, obvious thing. We got it. Okay. I'm new here, not originally. I came from Providence, Rhode Island, and went to RISD and disappeared for a couple of decades over in Europe doing music, art, theater, and ended up coming back here for a short time and then went off to California, where I've been for another few decades. So I'm new back here. It's like a whole new world. And I would love to use all my art, theater, music background that I've been so lucky to be able to live off of. Very few people have that opportunity. And I've taught. I actually had a company for 15 years, which was called Create Temps, and it was run half by my sister, Barbara Black. I don't know, some of you, I think know who she is. And myself, and doing California, and it was called Create Temps, where we placed, it was back in the 80s when computers first started doing their thing, and figured there was time for personnel company for creative people. So that was rather fun. And I had been tired of being sending myself as a freelancer on a lot of jobs that there were people better qualified to do than myself. So someone should sort them out and say, this person knows how to write copy. This person does scripts and blah, blah, blah. This person is an artist. As an artist, I've shown in galleries, a lot of galleries all over the world. Again, things have changed a lot since they've gone online. And I would love to get to meet more people in the field of art. Worked with the Rhode Island, Trinity Square Playhouse for a while and studied a lot about set building and theater. Love to meet more people in theater, music, I am a professional songwriter and I do landscaping, which has absolutely nothing to do with anything except it's a way of painting with plants and getting some practical money in, and I happen to love it. So I just have spent a lifetime learning stuff. And I am at that stage of my life that I've taught in California. I taught in San Diego community colleges, taught art. Everything I can do, I would like to use and make a difference. I noticed that, you know, Southborough is such a wonderful town and it really is fun. And I would just love to see more arts here, more music, more theater. And you can ask for more specifics, but I'm warning you, you'll get.
No, this is good. I'm not gonna say overqualified. You're clearly qualified for this, no doubt about it. So this is welcome to hear what your background is. This town's full of talent. We just don't necessarily do what we need to do to bring it all together. So this is great that it looks like a renewed interest in this group, because for a while it was lagging. So this is great that we're going to appoint 2 new members tonight. We're going to hear from Caitlin. So this is great. Marguerite, any questions?
No, hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Sam?
Thanks for applying. I'm excited about this. The things that the Arts Council has done in the past, I think have been great, just haven't been enough. And so I think this not only renews the energy level here with some new members, also I think broadens the scope of some things that have been done because I think it's been more narrowly focused to certain types of art. So I think there's great opportunity for a wider range of arts and culture activities could be sponsored by the commission, which I think is very exciting. And for me, at least, this is one of the things that makes Southborough special, and it's a way to bring the community together in formats and structures that they wouldn't naturally interact with. So you get an exhibit or whatever, and you get people who come to look at it who have never really, done that, or people who say, gee, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's look at this stuff and chat together, et cetera. So it mixes up people in ways I think that are very healthy for the community. And we try to do a lot of that, but we need to do a lot more. So I think this is a great opportunity for the commission to get up to full staff and to come up with some exciting new programs. So I look forward to this. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Andrew?
I think you made an outstanding presentation of why you would be good for this, for the Cultural Arts Council, and I fully support your coming on board and very thankful for you stepping forward and signing up.
No real comments, just welcome to Southborough.
So I'm not going to add much either because I'm very excited about this. I don't want to say anything that would make you have second thoughts. So,
Believe me, I bet you're not going to be able to do that.
but I do think you've got broad support from this group as far as what you guys need. So it's really great to see these new faces coming in. So I hope that we can help as far as what you decide you want to do going forward. So keep us posted.
Would love to.
Okay, so Sam, you want to make the motion to appoint Jane?
I'll move that we appoint Jane Gates to the Cultural Arts Council, term to expire August 5, 2026.
Second?
Roll call vote. Marguerite?
Landry, I.
Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Al?
Hi.
And Cook is aye. And just to be clear, that date is right. I checked it. It's a weird date. These 2 appointments have weird end dates. I don't know how they got that, but it is what it is. So,
I
okay,
do have one more thing to say,
go ahead.
just to let you know that, I really would love to do this because today's my birthday and I gave up my birthday dinner to be here.
Oh, well, happy
The only
birthday.
thing I'm not telling you which birthday. it is.
39, I'm right.
39 again, yes.
You and Jack Benny.
We all get that, believe me. So now, just to, since you're not used to the process, you need to go down to see the town clerk during daytime hours and get sworn in the next 30 days. Until you do that, you're not officially on the Arts Council. So if you can get down there and get sworn in, you'll be ready to go.
I think I can manage that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jane. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Okay, so Nicole? So Nicole, help me with your last name. Bolos?
Bolos.
Okay, all right. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be appointed to the Arts Council?
Sure. I am a resident, but also a teacher in town.
and I've been teaching here for about 16 years.
What grade? I knew your name. So what grade?
So I'm at the Neary School.
Okay. Oh, so you're right in the thick of the decision.
Yeah. And I've always tried to keep, my kids and school sort of separate, so I've kind of just tried to in town sort of take the mom role and not sort of interfere with their growing up. But I like to be involved as much as I can. And now they're older, they're entering their senior year of college. And I figured now's my time to do what I want to do. And I figured this is a great opportunity. I love the arts within our school. I think Neary has a wonderful arts program, both musically and artistically. And I like the art that we do with the council. But I think I would like it to be more encompassing with all of the schools. And I would like to bring that lens to the council if it's possible. But personally, as I'm sort of straddled between, on a personal level, having children that are growing into adults, but also parents that are aging. And I see with the elderly aspect of that, how important art is to that, and music with my parents. And I would like to see something come about of that with the town, because we have such a varied population. And I'm interested in finding ways to, I guess, generationally span the arts. And I think the council does a great job of that, but maybe tie the schools in more. And
That's a great idea. Are your parents in Southborough?
they're not, no. So I travel a lot to see them, but I make sure, because music and art helps keep their memory stimulated and keeps them active. And I think that is something that we need more of. And we have such a good population of people here that, and we don't want them to leave, but so we want to keep them stimulated. And I think students here
great.
could help with that.
Sounds like you and Jane have good, different, talents as far as this committee goes. So, I'm going to do a report on Neary in a second, but just to let you know, we've spent a lot of time on the music, and the arts, trying to make sure we really do end up with a school that, provides what we need to truly, educate our kids as far as those go. So lots of discussions have been on those rooms. So, all right. So thank you. Marguerite, any questions? Sam?
I can't resist.
What?
Thank you for volunteering here. Again, I think you bring an interesting dimension to the group, and I have always believed that we need tighter integration between town activities and school activities. And that's actually broader than our school. I think St. Mark's actually has a very active arts program that we do some connections with, but not nearly as much in terms of taking advantage of those resources. And I think that the senior center is another place that would be a great place to connect with more actively than we have in the past. So I think there's a huge amount of upside with this new group. And I, again, appreciate your interest in it. And I think there's great work to be done here. So thank you.
Andrew?
I really appreciate everything you had to say, and I think you'll be an outstanding addition to the Southborough Arts Council.
Thank you.
Al?
Thank you for volunteering.
All right, that's it?
That's it.
Okay. All right, that's it.
No tough questions, Al? Wait a minute.
All
Yeah,
right, I escaped that one.
What does she think about nuclear fusion?
Oh, me. We're just joking now. All right, nothing for me too. I'm just very happy that you stepped to do this. So Sam, you want to make the motion?
Yep. I'll move that we appoint Nicole Bolos to the Cultural Arts Council, term to expire October 2nd, 2025.
Second.
Roll call vote. Marguerite?
Landry, I.
Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Cook is aye. Al?
Hi.
5-0. So Nicole, you've got a weird end, so you're gonna have to, we'll have to reappoint you in October, just so you know.
Okay,
It'll come pretty fast, but same thing, 30 days, you gotta go see the town clerk and get sworn in, and then you'll be ready to go.
okay,
Okay, so thank you for coming tonight.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now, Caitlin. So Andrew, you want to handle this one since you've been talking to Caitlin?
Sure. So, Kate, who you can remind us, we appointed you fairly recently, right?
Yes, I believe it was in October of last fall. So my family, we relocated from California in late September. So it would have been in October, November.
Okay, but you have some roots in this area too, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I have a lot of extended family in New England and Massachusetts specifically. But I also completed my undergraduate here in Massachusetts and have worked with several sort of leading art institutions in the region.
So Kate recently reached out to me and kind of to let me know that she was working on some planning for the upcoming year for the Cultural Arts Council and wanted to get some feedback from the select board on what were ways that we could support her and what ideas did we have. And I think it's best left if I just kind of turn it over to you to describe what you've done with the terms of the community survey and things like that.
Sure.
But I thought it would be good if Kate came and just presented to the whole board. I think, as you can see from the recent appointments, she's doing a great job in bringing new energy into this board. And another couple of things we talked about that we could touch on as well are, we have a tricentennial committee, which is working on our tricentennial celebration in 2027. And I see some potential ways that we could work together. Because one of the things we talked about is if there's some type of a public art that we could sponsor in connection with the tricentennial celebration. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I also want to point out in the audience, my colleague Liz Kesselman, who's here, and then Rajani Kumari is our other newest committee member. And we recently voted to reorg and essentially appoint the three of us into kind of an executive committee structure based on the Mass Cultural Arts Council guidelines, and then focus some effort around recruitment of new members so that we would have a full committee coming into this year's fiscal cycle. And, as we've been working and reviewing some of the historical activity of the Cultural Arts Council, it's really remarkable and impressive to see what has been accomplished over the years. And so the key questions that our committee has been looking at over the past couple of months since we restructured in June are, where can we improve just administratively, getting this committee operating at full, function and in compliance and in alignment with the select board and town goals. And then two, once we get through this upcoming year of grant making, where can we work with other town partners to amplify the role of arts and culture in the town of Southborough? I know that there might be some folks listening that are not aware of what the Cultural Arts Council does. And so I'll just say that, we are a small committee that awards around $6,000 annually to individuals, arts organizations, and other structures that essentially are designed and putting on programs that are intended to serve the town of Southborough through arts and culture. So when we're looking ahead, I think that for this upcoming year, one of the key points that we wanted to share tonight is that we recently issued a community input survey in order to inform us on whether or not the funding guidelines that we've been using to award grants are in fact, A, something that town constituents are aware of, B, if they are aware of these guidelines, do folks know that they can actually apply and approach the council for funding for projects? And 3, are the guidelines actually in alignment with what the town would like to see in terms of arts and cultural programming? And the feedback, which we will actually share, this is something that we're going to post publicly on Facebook, and then we'll also share with the select board, it was kind of mixed. we were surprised to see that, I think, that, the majority, it's safe to say that the majority of individuals who responded to the survey were a little surprised that the funding was actually available to them. Which is not surprising when you look at the organizations, which, by the way, are all fabulous and doing really terrific work. So this is not a criticism of projects that have been funded historically. But you can see that there are folks that are aware of the program and the ability to apply for grant funds because they are receiving grant funding every year. So we'd like for the community to know that we do have this fund pool available. And it's something that could be a good resource for different activities and things like that in alignment with town activities. So I think that, the three ways in which we are looking for sort of feedback and help, and this is not something that we need to get to the bottom of tonight, but, the first is really PR and awareness. We have an upcoming grant cycle that will open on September 1st and close on October 17th, and awards will be made at $250 and higher. We'll make those decisions in our November committee meeting. And you do not need to be a certified nonprofit or a certified organization to receive those funds. You have to have a project that articulates clearly how you would be using art to actually serve the town of Southborough. The second key point where we do need some feedback, and this is something that is iterative, is really kind of what I would classify sort of operationally. So what, Andrew, you mentioned identifying ways that we could support the Tricentennial Committee, things like that. So being, helping us be aware of where we can plug in and amplify, maybe not necessarily through the resources that are allocated through the LCC funds from the state, but through fundraising or other activities, that kind of thing. And then the third is brand equity. We're very aware that we're one of the smaller committees in town. So, we know that sometimes, our priorities will not be like up here. But we would like to just have involvement from the select board and from other committees as it makes sense to help inform our strategic planning over the next couple of years. So I'll pause there because that was a lot of information. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or feedback in the immediate.
Go ahead, Marguerite.
Marguerite Landry. Okay, I have a couple. Do you have a dedicated space or do you want a dedicated space?
I think that that's a question that we could think about together.
Okay, because there was one, as
right,
you know, right?
My general sense is in the immediate, no. I think, at the base, it's a grant making council. And so the initial focus will be on making sure that the grant making that we're doing is A, serving town appropriately, B, up to contemporary standards. So just making sure that we're ensuring equity and access to the grant pool that we have. I think if the council gets to a point, after the next 8 to 12 months, once we get through that cycle and we see that there's a high demand for arts and cultural programming or something in that vein where we would be a key sort of convener, then I think that would make sense. But we would need to have sort of what I would consider some sort of business plan for,
Be a whole
you know what
different
I mean?
focus, yeah.
Yeah.
The second question is affiliated with your grants, is there an exhibiting program going on with that? There's space at the library, there's space at the community house, there's space at the senior center. Some things come in the schools that go to the library. And I love the idea of a new exhibit.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I do too.
And there may be other places in town that would have walls, right?
Yeah.
That would be very, very good so that people could go to a certain place and
Yeah.
have it be an event.
It's a really good point, and it actually highlights one of the key gaps that we saw in the community input survey. So if you look at our historic grants that we've issued, the programs that are being funded are primarily performing arts. So two of the key constituencies that we saw were sort of not where the needs were not met were families, youth programming, and then senior citizens. So those are the two constituencies that seem to not be receiving or using arts programming in Southborough. But then in terms of actual like programming itself, visual art was the missing piece. There were a lot of sort of cultural programs that are funded and performing arts that have been funded. But to your point, having sort of an articulated or an intentional sort of program around exhibits was not part of the last few fiscal cycles.
So let me just ask for a little bit of qualification. A person would receive a grant, say, and that would be for their benefit, or it would be something that would be shown in a school or shown out in the heritage park.
It would need to be serving the town. So it would need to have high visibility.
Mhm.
I think the way we would evaluate that would be looking at how many different people would actually
Would see
utilize
it.
and visit
Yeah.
the exhibition. How are they going to be promoting that? Is it free and available? Are there youth programs attached to it? Those kinds of questions.
Okay, so it'll be part of the packages.
Exactly.
How would it serve?
Yeah.
Definitely, there's a lot of seniors who are really good at being artists in this
I know.
town, too.
It's remarkable.
I know,
actually.
it really is. I could use. And my other, no, I guess that was it. I guess my question was, how would the grants be tied and how would we get the benefit of all these wonderful
Right.
efforts?
Right. That's a good question. And I think, part of that too is incumbent on us. This is something we discussed last week at a planning meeting where, I think that we won't be able to solve the problem entirely, but I think that through a little bit of effort and intentional planning, we can create a strategy to make folks aware or at least understand, what programs are funded and existing. Yeah.
This is great. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting, great opportunity here. A quick comment about communication. I know you've talked about Heritage Day as a possible way to get communication out there. I think that would make a lot of sense. To Marguerite's point about a lot of talent hidden in town, I discovered late in the game that our former fire chief was a watercolor painter,
I know.
very skilled.
There's a lot.
And it's pretty surprising, but in addition to fighting fires, he had other skills, which is great. I would encourage you to also think proactively about some of this in the sense that one of my goals, I think, as I've discussed, is getting opportunities to get people together in different ways. And I think you hit on it a bit in terms of the value of having grants aimed at things that involve more people in the community. But if the council were able to come up with some ideas to say these kind of programs are programs that somehow generate wide public participation in one way or another, I'd be happier seeing more focus on that than the, small individual exhibit someplace, for example, not to the exclusion of those, but it seems to me there's real value for some of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And just to clarify that the money you get is from the state
Yes.
cultural council. I certainly wouldn't object to a small budget for the cultural council in terms of line item somewhere. We have a number of small committees that have $1,000 kind of budget for things like publicity and other kind of things. So again, you might think about that for the next budget cycle. I don't know if there's other support here for it, but I think that could make some sense.
Thank you.
And again, to me, there's great upside in a variety of ways here for different kind of programs and exploring things that we haven't done before. The seniors are always looking for content in one way or another. And the more we can do for that, I think that's, again, a sort of built-in audience that is eager to participate in those kind of things. So again, thank you. And
Thank you.
good. I look forward to great work here.
Al?
I just want to compliment you on a very thoughtful and well thought out plan.
Well, we're getting there.
Well, you seem to be really organized. And Liz, it's nice to meet you in person. I know your name, but I've never seen you in person, so hello. I just want to say the following. I went to so there's a foundation Metro West called the Foundation for Metro West, and they do a lot of things, but they have a big art piece of it too. So recently they honored one of my really good friends as the person of the year. They focused on art. So I went to the breakfast. There's probably 1,000 people there in Wellesley, and I learned so much about what she had done. She actually renovated and restored the Arts Innovation Center in Weston.
Mhm.
And so I've got lots of ideas for you as far as stuff you do, but others got up there too. There's a woman in Medway that just does all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of people out there that I think could, multiply what you guys are trying to do. So let's just keep talking and see what we can do here. But to reiterate or to agree with Sam, we believe that in 2030, we're going to have about a third of our town be seniors. We're aging. So yes, we need to provide things for our seniors to do. So this sounds like this is right up your alley too, to help with that. So this is great.
We're aging in front of your very eyes, actually.
Yep.
Well, I think it's sort of, Nicole actually pointed this out when she was sharing some of her remarks about reasoning to join the council. And, one of the things I always like to say is that arts, it's a great equalizer. So it's, not uncommon to go into an exhibition and you can have two very different people that have two very different backgrounds, different demographic, different political viewpoints, but they're looking at the same thing and they can rub shoulders and it is generative. So it'd be wonderful if we could work together to see a little bit more of that here.
That's great. So to go to the administrative side. So we've now decided there's 5 on the council, right? I know and you've got 5.
So we have 6. So we're full. I think our committee is 6. And so we've discussed if anyone terms off and doesn't want to renew, that we could actually, we would ask you to
Reduce it to 5.
think about,
All
yeah.
right, so you've got 6, you got 6 on it, so that's great, right? Okay, hopefully no tie votes. All right, that's great. So anytime you want to be on our agenda, just let us know, and we'd be glad to bring you back, because this is healthy stuff to hear as far as what you guys are
Thank you.
doing, so.
Thank you. Yeah, it's light.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
content
it
light.
is, it is, all good stuff.
So you have a grant cycle opening up in September 1st where it closes in mid-October, did you say?
Yes, yes.
So is anything-
17?
Actually, just to comment there.
Let's up to the table, Liz, so people can hear you.
For the state, for the.
And introduce yourself, Liz, because people on
Sorry, I'm
Zoom
Liz
won't know who you are.
A peer of Kate's. In order to receive the funding from the state, we have to have a minimum of 5 people on the committee.
Yes.
So that's why, right now we're at 6. I think you can have up to 22. I mean, there's some towns are much larger than ours. But I think we were feeling it would be a good idea to not be so lean that we would ever run in danger of not having the and missing out on the funding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Okay.
The
All right.
reason I had suggested that possibility is that we've had committees that have had a hard time getting a quorum.
Right.
So with 6, 4 is the quorum, with 5, 3 is the quorum, but that's not a problem now, given that you've got full membership, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can just think about it
Yeah.
together. I think if, for example, if we start to do more heavy lifting with programming, that would be a moment in which we would consider, oh, maybe we do need more.
You could expand, yeah. if you
Right,
wanted to.
recruiting.
Yeah,
more.
but we're just not there yet.
So where I was going with this is if there's anything that we could do to help publicize the upcoming grant cycle, maybe posting something on the town website or something like that. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All
That would
right.
be huge.
And maybe at our August 27th meeting, you put it into your report too, to remind people that cycle, or the grant cycle opens up on September 1st.
That'd be great.
Thank
Follow
you.
up On that. That'd be
Thank
great.
you. We'll follow
thanks.
up.
Good.
And if you want to see past recipients of, we're all I'm pretty new on this too, but going back, we have our own website through MCC, through the state. Southborough has, and you can see a history of all the organizations we've supported.
That's great. So thank you guys for coming out
Thanks.
tonight.
Thank you.
Glad to see you in person.
Yes.
All right, where's Mr. Miller? There he is. Come on up. What's that? Okay, introduce your posse. We know Grant.
So should they come up or?
Sure.
Okay, so Andy's online.
Annie Pfaff
Yes,
is
we gotta-
online.
yes,
our
go ahead and call your
very
meeting to order.
capable Vice Chair. So should everyone else come up or
Yeah,
They
come on up.
should.
At least sit behind you. And then
come on up?
you've got a quorum, so you got to call your
So,
meeting.
yeah,
to
let me
order.
call the meeting of the Southborough Historical Commission to order at 7:35 PM. And I'll note that Chair Kevin Miller is right in front of you and joined by our Vice Chair, Annie Pfaff, who's online, and in the room with us, Kelly O'Brien, Dan Blanchard, and Grant Farrington. And then we have two members who couldn't be here tonight. They had prior commitments, and that's Michelle Hokinson and Jim Bloschke. And I just, for everybody's, just to note that this committee does a lot of service on other committees. So I just want to note that Jim Bloschke serves on Tricentennial. Grant serves very energetically on CPC. Michelle Hokinson is on Pilot. And I'm officially on the 21 Highland Future Use Committee, and I'm praying that we'll get to meet someday.
Yep. Hope it's eternal.
If we can ever get that.
So are you full?
Going-
You've got 7 and you're full.
We have a full boat. I'm
Good.
very pleased and really proud of that because it's a great group. And it's, it's nice to have that kind of
At that
strength.
point, there was a meeting posted and ready to go of that committee, right? But then there was a problem with
The
quorum.
problem with quorum, and hopefully we'll get it together. I think, this summer is a problem and
It is.
people had been away that was the explanation I got, that there were people who were away or been able to get sworn in or whatever. So hopefully.
So just before you get started, for the public to understand what we're doing, we, as a select board, one of our goals is to try to invite committees here every meeting to see what's going on. And I think it was Al that wanted, suggested historic. I think I'm right. Anyway, so we're glad you're here and look forward to hearing what all you got going on.
Well, great. And thanks, Al. I want to try to keep it quick. And then maybe if you have questions or things you want, just interrupt me or ask at the end. I just thought first I'd tell you what we've been up to. And what we've been up to over the last year has largely involved a lot of signage and marking initiatives. Of course, the big one was getting the National Register stuff finally squared away. All those signs are up, as I'm sure everybody knows. They're there, they're out, they look fantastic. We're really happy. We had a nice reception on June 27th at the community house, and Sam and Marguerite dropped by to that. And that was a really satisfying kind of moment because it was both the opportunity to thank people. And for me, actually, I think the most gratifying aspect of that particular evening was that the late Kate Madison's husband, Peter Quirk, and her son and daughter-in-law were in attendance. And Kate Madison was sort of the person on historical before my time, who really, to get the National Register District, the Southborough Center Historic District, that was a 13-year odyssey. Neighbors on Main and mostly Lattisquama, and that was spearheaded by Ray Hokinson, actually. Michelle, of course, is on the commission. Her husband, started collecting donations from neighbors to try to get that initiative going. And it took 13 years. And Kate Madison was really important in that with the commission and the society when, frankly, people felt kind of beaten down and the thing was sort of failing. And she pumped a lot of air back into those sails and kept going really heroically until, we finally got it done. So it was really nice to have her family there and to celebrate a little bit with her and mark that. So the signs are up, as you know. They look great. That was an ARPA allocation that we got at 26,532, and we underspent. It was only 22,302. So we sent money back to the select board, to the pot. And if you all remember, this was 9 months or more ago, you were nice enough to allow us to claw a little bit of that back, 1,000 to help fund the historic house sign program, which we've revitalized, and 500 for a sign to mark the rural cemetery water tower. So that's a couple other things we've been involved in. The water tower sign has been ordered, and we should have delivery by the end of September. So I'm excited about that. There was a lot of research involved in that. That's that stone rubble tower, in the rural cemetery. It's quite beautiful. And this came about because Bill Cundiff started asked some questions. It needs to be re-roofed. And so he was asking me historical questions about what I thought was on the roof. That was interesting. That led me down this rabbit hole. And then I was talking to people around town and nobody knew what that tower was or what it had been for. And it's very interesting because it had a tank in it, and there was a windmill that pumped water up into it, and then they gravity irrigated the grounds of the cemetery in summer between 1903 and 1933. It took a long time to find that out. We finally did. We've ordered the sign, like I said, and I was frankly, when I asked for $500 9 or 10 months ago, I was guessing what it would cost. It cost $504.80. So I'm pretty pleased. The other thing on the sign front is the Historic House Sign Program relaunch, and we had revised the terms of the program after a lot of discussion, update the website, do a lot of design work. Annie does our design work sort of in-house, which is really helpful, and she can knock these things out right on the spot in the middle of a meeting if we have changes. So that is really fabulous. We have a local vendor, which is Signorama down on Southville Road. So we're keeping the money in town. And what had happened was we had a hand-painted sign maker who passed away, and he actually put dozens of such programs around the state out of business because it turns out that he was doing the work for all of them. So it's very hard to get a replacement, but these new signs, which are printed, actually, they look almost identical to what we had, but they're printed on PVC, so they should be a lot more durable than what we had in the past. And we've also kept the price very manageable, so we're quite pleased about that. Under the new program, we've had 6 have gone out, 2 are nearing delivery. They were supposed to be ready last week, actually. 8 are on order, recently approved at a June meeting we had, and 5 are pending some kind of review at our next meeting. So it's been a very successful relaunch. I think, what's that total? 21? So I feel like the program has really taken off. Beth Malo and myself wrote a nice piece sort of helping us promote. So I feel really good about that. And I think when people start seeing these new ones around town as they go up, there'll be some excitement with that. One thing that was connected to that.
I might ask, how many do we think are out there potentially?
Annie set up a great spreadsheet on this. Annie, maybe you could look it up while we're talking.
Roughly, are we talking about several dozen or 500 or?
Potentially, there's quite a bit. And this was actually a factor in our thinking. Annie's got that. Do you have that number?
She's looking.
She's looking for it. Okay, thank you.
She's also muted. So do the homeowner have to come to you to request this?
Yeah, they have to come to us and request it, and that information is on our webpage on the town website. It's a fairly easy process. They let us know what they know. We go to the MACRIS. Sometimes we have to iron out a discrepancy between what the MACRIS database, which is the state historical database, has, and for instance, what Patriot Properties has, because there is often a discrepancy there. And sometimes the name of the house, most of the houses will have a historic name, but sometimes they don't. And there's one I'm trying to chase down right now for somebody in town. So there's some variables there. One thing that came into play with this is that I did a survey of some, I don't know, 24 such programs throughout Massachusetts to find how other places were doing it. And at some point prior to my coming on the Historical Commission, we moved to actually giving them away. We, as you know, we have a very modest budget. It's only $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that you get a big demand that can really eat into it. But the first one week, Annie and I went to present to the homeowner, somebody over on the lovely Mansard on East Main. And we went to them and they were so kind and so grateful about, and so excited, frankly, to get the sign, and so really pleased with how it looked. And so were we, frankly. They said, well, what does it cost? And we said, well, it's free. And
They should have said $500.
Yeah, I should have, And they said, well,
You got to think faster than that, Kevin.
well, it actually sparked a conversation because, under the state statute making for the creation of historical commissions, that we have a right to actually hold funds, hold real property, hold real estate.
Really?
Annie talked to Carla McAuliffe, and the upshot of this all is that we've set up a donation account that allows us to hold money year over year. And we are going to, as we present these plaques now going forward, present it with a and that's in the rhetoric on the website that says, listen, they're free, but we'd be happy to take your donation. And the goal is to help to make this more or less self-sustainable so that we can use the modest budget that we have for other initiatives. So that was a really nice, thing to, and thanks to Annie and Carla McAuliffe to get that set up for us. And we're ready to go. We've gotten in, mine and somebody else has donated, and hopefully as these signs go out now, we'll be able to, collect some money back.
Does anybody have a number yet?
Yes, I just looked up our spreadsheet. There's 55 signs that are already delivered, already in place. Again, that's the ones we've been doing, and also prior to this revitalization. And as Kevin mentioned, a dozen or so that are should be delivered very soon.
How about the total population out there of houses that could qualify for a sign? Any rough estimate of how many of those there are?
We have run that list. Let me
I mean, just
let me pull
ballpark, is
that
it
up as
hundreds?
well.
Several
It's a,
hundred.
it's a couple hundred, yeah.
Several hundred.
About 350, give or take.
What
Wow.
is the year again that the house has to? predate?
1924.
Well, this is actually 85 years or older.
Okay.
That's the discrepancy with the demolition delay bylaw.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's okay, so,
1924, right?
no.
85.
You say 85, so
85,
the
yeah.
demolition
Okay.
delayed bylaw is 24.
Right,
And
20
this is 15 years, so this is 39.
1940
exactly.
roughly.
So
Right.
it's-
So yeah, there's more. And actually this is, I'll just mention that, next on my list was to talk about, and you want to know about what our priorities are going forward, for instance, is, we have regular sort of demolition delay activity. And one of the things, when I came on the committee, it was only in June of 21. That was right when there was a lot of talk about the demolition delay bylaw pursuant to one particular property and so on and so forth. That it prompted my first couple months on the commission, some talks with Jay Tallerman, the town council, about there was a set of rules and regs that was sort of separate from the bylaw, and his advice, and I agreed with it, frankly, from day one, was that it was you can't have rules and regs that sort of are more onerous than the bylaw itself. We got rid of those, and we have worked, in the 3 years I've been on the commission, just fine without any rules and regs, just within the four corners of the bylaw. That said, the demolition delay bylaw is a fairly sloppily written document, in my view. And Mr. Tallerman concurs that there's language that needs to be cleaned up. But there's another aspect of the bylaw that really needs adjustment. Most of the demolition delay bylaws in operation in the state don't have a fixed date for qualification. They have essentially a range, right? And so ironically, under the town zoning code, the definition of a historic building, and this was adopted at ATM in 2017, it's a building listed on the historic properties survey, skipping some stuff, or any building or structure that is more than 85 years old, right? Well, the current demolition delay bylaw, as it was written, only makes structures older than 1925, pre-1925 is what it says. So 1924. So in other words, a structure currently has to be 100 years old to fall into the purview of the demolition delay bylaw. I think it should comport with the definition of a historic building in the zoning code, which would make it 85 years old. Well, what would that change? Just to give you two examples. One would be the Southborough Firehouse at 5 Main Street. That's the current House of Pizza. That building was built in 1927. So in other words, if somebody wanted to tear it down tomorrow, we wouldn't have any purview or oversight on that, a demolition proposal for that building, because it's not old enough.
What about 2028? If they did it in 28, because now it's over 100 years old, it would be part of it?
Not until, yeah,
Okay, so it's not rolling
right.
at all.
It's not moving at all.
All right.
See, so, right. So it would, yeah, even in 2028, since the cutoff is pre-1925, the firehouse would still be outside of our purview. And, you know, the other interesting example is the Peters High School Annex at 19 Main, which of course, you know, St. Mark's took down last year. That was built in 1930. Again, we had no say-so over it. Now, the folks at St. Mark's are just terrific to work with. I have a great relationship with, you know, Rob Kay and the CFO over there. He's a wonderful guy, has been on any number of issues, a fantastic partner to the Historical Commission. And so when they wanted to tear that down, they had us in, they let us take all these photographs. We documented the building inside and out, and the firehouse next door, of course, which they took down as well. We managed to rescue the cupola, of course, from that building. Mark was there that day. It was this wonderful thing where they crane off this massive, it weighed like 2 tons, I believe.
They paid for it to move.
They paid for it. They took it down. They took it over and donated it to the society. You know, we sort of worked out that deal, and they were great about that. So, you know, they've just been a wonderful partner, and again, let us document. They recovered documents that had been left behind inadvertently in the other building by the fire department, which I was able to reunite with Chief Achilles when he was here. And so great partner. But the point is, they didn't have to do any of that they did. But and by the way, I don't think the demolition delay bylaw would have made any bit of difference in that case. It would have gone down eventually. But the point is, that's the type of building about which there would have been a conversation.
Kevin?
Why don't we have a goal?
Kevin, I've actually got a,
Hold on now, hold on a second. Okay, so Sam, go ahead first.
Just quick suggestion, why don't we have a goal of getting this stuff cleaned up for the fall or Springtown meeting next year?
I'd like to do that. And
Sounds like a fairly doable task.
yeah, and I would say, Sam, the one, you know, it's been very interesting, right? Of course, this has been an on-the-job learning for me because I, you know, came onto the commission in June, and then the following February, I was chair. And so it's been, you know, somewhat of a interesting whirlwind, but I have to say the cases of demolition applications that have come before us while I've been chair have really all been really interesting, and we've learned a lot. And, you know, we had one on East Main last spring, it was, which was a split vote. You know, I voted to let the house go. I got outvoted by, and I thought it was a great moment actually for the Historical Commission because there was disagreement. It was very principled. Everybody had their position, and I lost.
But given what you've known, what you've experienced here, it seemed to me you've got good data to say, let's step back from it, take a look, make all these pieces
We do.
together.
Yeah, and but you know, we've learned even recently, we've had a couple partial demolition cases that actually prompted me to take advantage of town council's office hours to ask him some questions about the question of partials. And there's some language in there that I think needs to be cleaned up. And his advice was very helpful to me in that regard. And so, but the other part of it was, I think, to be quite candid, before going to town meeting, the most interesting so far case of the utility of the demolition delay bylaw in my time as chair has been 42 Main, Doc Stonehouse, you know, almost right across the street here. That's not resolved yet. The delay is actually run out, and Fay is still holding. They've got a lot of things to examine. They've had a change in leadership. So that always, you know, involves a kind of reset. But I can tell you unequivocally, you know, based on the year or more I spent talking, at that point it was Jim Shea, then their chair of their board of trustees, is that building would not be there today. There's no question about it, if not for the demolition delay bylaw, because what it occasioned was this very long, very productive, very cordial, interesting conversation. They commissioned a really expensive study. I think it was about 40 grand to look into that building really in a granular way.
But they wouldn't have done that without you.
They would not have
Jim
done that.
Shea.
No, and Jim said that very.
He told me that too.
Yeah, he said, listen, we, you know, I don't want to talk for him, but what he basically said was, we muffed the play initially, and I said, don't feel bad, because that's what this bylaw is all about. And he was so cool about it, really. And again, all respect to Faye, and I think they know, but basically the upshot of that whole experience with them is that they know the gem they have, and they realize that, oh, wow, this is actually really important. And they've hired architects. They've hired a really top-notch architect who's done a lot of work in that building, and they know what they have. And they're just right now, I still think, trying to put the fine touches and the money, because it's going to cost, on how to do it and do it right. I'm sorry, I'm talking.
My point was
So
simply.
hold on a second. So Mark and I met with Faith School a month ago or so.
Yeah.
This was on our agenda to talk about. So the current status is it's just on hold for about 2 years is what they think. They're doing they're doing a study of how to use the facilities, et cetera, and that's part of it. So they're not going to make any decision until that study is done and they really understand the facilities and how to use it. So it's going to be a while before they truly decide what to do with it, but it's not coming down.
Well, that's it. They painted it, and they know what they've got, which is the point.
Yeah, but thank
Yeah.
Jim Shea. So 5 more minutes. So I'm not sure what else you want to do, but I
Not
just want to make
much.
sure you get all your points in the chance to hear.
Yeah, actually, while we're on the demolition delay, that was actually one of the questions. First off, I want to compliment the commission. I think you guys do a very good job and very impressive. Right now, I'm not able to point to a building that has actually been saved by the demolition delay bylaw. And,
We just said 42 Main Street.
well, we don't know whether that's been saved or not.
Well, we
know-
think it
and
has.
We
It
know
has
it's been,
for
we
now.
know it's been delayed, and I know that what we have on the books today is a law which inconveniences property owners and in some cases substantially inconveniences property owners. And I'm not convinced that we are receiving a large public benefit. And so I think we need to rethink this, because we haven't actually got an example of a building that has been renovated and is now in current use because of the demolition delay law that I'm aware of. We have, and when we talk about St. Mark's and we talk about Fay, that's very nice, but we are also inconveniencing people. And I'm thinking now about, for example, 5 Corderville, where a family was trying to settle an estate and was forced to wait a significant period of time, and that significant period of time had a cost, and in the end to no effect. I mean, I wish we had saved that building, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, but I'm not sure we have a law that creates a lot of process. I'm not sure we have a law that creates results, and that process has a cost to ordinary citizens and ordinary property owners, and it is not an insignificant cost. So I think we need to I think the number of years in that we are, I think it's worth asking ourselves, is this really working? Is this doing what we originally intended it to do? And do we really want to continue with this?
Okay, so
That's the
we
tough
didn't-
question I
we
have.
didn't ask you here to debate the DDR. So Kevin, what else do you want to tell us tonight? And then the
Oh, I
board
would
can-
love to debate that, but because I have.
I'm sure you would,
I
and we'll be here
interesting
till
answers to it, but I will go on. I will say, the other things we're looking at is, we did open up a conversation with John Deli Priscoli, owner of the Burnett House at 84 Main last fall, and that's got to be pursued by us going forward. What we are concerned about is citizens of Southborough getting continuing value for their $1 million investment. And one of the primary provisions in the preservation restriction that concerns us is the maintenance of the viewscape. And the document does call for regular pruning and maintenance to maintain the viewscape from Maine, Parkerville, and Deerfoot. And so that's going to involve, you know, an ongoing review and conversation with Mr. Deli Priscoli to make sure that the taxpayers get a return on their dollar. And that's the form that we expect to get it. And so that's a conversation that has to go forward. We are also concerned, and this is something, you know, we're due for a strategy meeting, but going forward, I have a real concern about it. It's natural to someone who chairs a historic commission about record keeping, which historically actually has been quite bad among the historical commission. And we have documents that are now still at the Flag School, which sort of under the superintendence of the Historical Society, which of course is a separate affair from us. There's the question of artifacts that we take in that go straight, you know, we don't have any place to hold anything. We have a legal right to hold items, but we have no place to put them. And so I'd be interested in some kind of a place, you know, there was a conversation when Caitlin was up here from the Cultural Arts Council about that she wanted space. And you know, one thing that I might suggest, this is a conversation for another time, but perhaps some sort of co-working, co-display space for boards and commissions where they can sort of share their work with each other and maybe even meet or use a file cabinet. You know, too much is at my house right now. When we had the little reception, for instance, at the community house for the National Register District, Annie got the district map blown up into a nice big sign on poster board. And when we were all done, she said, I don't want this thing. What do you want to do with it? You take it home. So I did, and it's in my office at home, but that's not where it should be. I would like, maybe I could talk to Mark about this. You know, I'd like to display it at the townhouse so that people who came in and out could look at it and say, oh, that's the bound, because nobody knows, you know, you've got the signs, but so there are things like that that I'd like to work on. The Revolutionary Veterans and the LBG, you know, that was the thing that came up from Massar, and they were going to give us money, and then they pulled it back. The guy said, I don't have it anymore. Sally Waters has done a ton of work on that. Dan did a lot of work vetting Sally's research. We know that there are 36 Revolutionary veterans in marked graves in the OBG and 43 in unmarked. To me, that's a scandal. And you know, the Massar may have gone away with the money, but I'm not giving up on this. So we're going to get that money one way or another and get it done. And I'd like to get it done before the tricentennial. In the spirit of cooperation among boards, I got some outreach from a fellow in Northborough. Northborough's appointed a 250th anniversary of the American Revolution Committee. And he reached out to me and he said, does Southborough have anything similar? And I said, no. And I explained to him that all that energy has been going really toward the tricentennial, but went down to, Andrew was there, the tricentennial's last meeting, and you know, it just kind of shanghaied Don Morris as he came into the building and explained this to him and said, you know, is there something we can do? And Don had me speak. It was very nice because I was basically interrupting his meeting and had me speak to this. But I'd like to figure out what we can do on an educational level about to try to actually aid the Tricentennial Committee with the revolutionary celebration. So in other words, the 250 of the revolution is 2026, the tricentennial's in 2027. So if there's anything that we can do there that will gin up interest for the tricentennial, I think it might be nice.
So we know there's grant money for the 250, so there
Yes.
is. And we know that the Tricentennial Committee is very active in starting to raise money. So I believe that we should be able to provide the funds we need to get all these things done, the old burial ground in good shape, you know, the fence done,
Right.
get these gravestones or graves marked, whatever. You're not talking $1 million. And Sam has gone to a lot of trouble to look at the trust money that we have to see what piece of that could be used. 'Cause a lot of it was left for burial ground, right, for cemeteries. So I am cautiously optimistic that what you need to get all this done, we will be able to find the funds to do.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes, sorry. Anyway, you were mentioning previously about documents that have been found at the fire station that were handed back to you. And I think there's an issue of that needs to get stored somewhere. You can't just, a lot of it. And there's another issue I think that there is for a long time in town, the Historical Society and the Historical Commission were conflated in everybody's mind. So you can make a donation. I've done it. I'm sure a lot of people have, where you think it's going to the town, but it ends up going to the society.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of documents that well, Kelly was mentioning that she had needed access to a certain document to see whether a house had been modified when, apropos of issuing a permit, the document existed, she was not able to obtain it. So this is kind of something that should be handled sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just be really quick on this. I will say that this is something that I think a lot about. Again, when we get stuff, somebody sent me a yearbook from the Peters School. It's in my house because I have no place to put it. I have nothing to do with it. When Dan was just after rainstorms, picking up artifacts in what's now the new Heritage Park, I've got a box of 500 of those neatly wrapped up in tissue paper in my basement. I don't know what to do with them,
So we agree. We've talked about this.
yeah.
We know they need space. So we're in the
Some-
middle of reshuffling buildings right now. So this will all fall
Right.
out.
Because the thing is that, as Marguerite's talking about, there is a legitimate question, right? That when things are of a historic nature donated to town, historically, there've been such commingling between the society and the commission that no one knew the difference. And so they thought, and when people make donations, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. The Historical Commission supports the work of the society 100%. We're tasked by the master plan to work with them. We do work with them. They've done tremendous work over in Fayetteville Hall against long odds. And, we're committed to good cooperation with them. That said, there may be people that want to donate documents, artifacts, whatever it is, and don't want them going to a private organization, which is what the society is. They want them to stay with the town of Southborough and not in Kevin Miller's
I was
home
gonna say, they don't want your house either.
Right, exactly. So I want to get that stuff where it properly should. And this is why we voted twice to our enthusiastic support of what Jim Haggerty's doing with the records down here in the basement, because it's so important. And I've used those records in my research on the water tower.
So I still think we're going in the right direction because the two are now separated pretty well, right? There's no commingling of people. And, as we all know, the wheels of town government move slowly, but they move. So I think we will get there. We're certainly not there yet. So Kevin, it's 10 after, and I said to 8 o'clock. Hey,
I've been
sorry.
pretty patient with just the one
Go
point.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, the Town Common Rail Replacement Project, the CPA application. So the status of that for the rest of the board, if you're not already aware, Historical Commission has voted to support it, right? And we voted to support it. So I think we're doing it together.
Yes.
And the deadline to submit the application is the 31st
Of what month?
August.
Okay.
Okay,
For
so it's
Regular
a
town
simple.
meeting?
No, this is for annual town meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a pretty simple, right? I'm just thinking logistically, our next meeting is going to be on the 26th, all right? And 27th.
Okay.
Do you want to have a completed draft application as part of the
It's due September 1st?
August 31st? This is just a simple application.
Right, who's doing the application?
Okay, so that's what we're looking to sort out here. So since it was a goal that I volunteered myself for, I will take a first stab at this, but then I'd like to work with you and the historical commission. Do you feel it's something that you want to look at and discuss in a public meeting before we sign off on it and submit it to the CPC? And I've also been to the CPC, so this is on the radar screen.
Yeah, I'm happy to convene,
Okay.
later this month.
All right,
If I can get everybody together and get a quorum, we'll do it.
okay,
Let's talk.
okay, great.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, microphone.
For whatever reason, the updated application wasn't on our website, so I noticed that, and so we have the updated application is just got posted today.
Or by CPC or?
Sorry for
okay.
CPC.
Yeah.
And we also have an application handbook, which we
Yeah, I see that.
spent a lot of time on, so hopefully that will be helpful in kind of preparing the CPA application.
All right, sounds like we have a plan on that one.
Okay,
Okay.
and one question there is on the application, which I feel like I'm stuck on, okay? Which is what additional funding sources are available, committed, or under consideration? So I think that asks for grants. Now, obviously, if we were to get approval for CPA funds for this, and then we later found a grant to do it, we could just use the grant and spend less from CPA. I'm stuck. I don't know where to go to.
Why wouldn't you just say none that we're aware of right now?
Okay, so, but just so that we have a good faith response, I'm not aware of anything, but if you are aware of anything, or if anyone else knows of a grant program that could fund something like this, we're all ears so we can put it on this application. Just something to consider over the next couple of weeks before we submit this.
Will do.
All right.
Yeah.
So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank
And
you,
I-
Dan.
and I
Thank you,
say
Dan.
that I think I speak for the commission to say that we feel really well supported by the select board, and I appreciate that very, very, very much. And Al, let's chat about the DDBLs.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank you for
my
your
goal is
time.
to have a
Oh, yes,
conversation.
Thank you. Let me, we have to adjourn the historical commission, so this will be a roll call vote. Annie? Oh,
Yes.
wait, someone has to, I'll make it. Thank you. Second it, Kelly.
I second it.
All right, that is the roll call vote. Thank you. I'm chair. Annie,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Grant, Dan, Miller's aye, 5-0. See ya.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am going to rearrange the agenda again because we have guests here tonight. I don't want them to have to wait too much longer. I told him it'd be 8. Dave, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to hear from Dave Ferris about his plans for 352 Turnpike Road. So remember, you got to introduce yourself. Both of you.
Good evening. My name is David Ferris, and I'm accompanied with George Bannon of our real estate company, Ferris Development. And I would just start the meeting by thanking the select board for the continuous support and time and effort all of the committee has put into the prior projects that we're still working through. And I really would say that both the ZBA and the select board have shown tremendous resilience and effort and commitment to both the projects that we put before the community. And we're very grateful for all of your efforts and work with us. And it's with that I would sort of start an introduction to 352 and why we thought it could make sense for the community, stepping back, big picture, and just looking at where we are as a community in terms of our affordable housing. Effectively, we looked at our existing asset base in Southborough and how the utilization was happening and changing in the office market, that we own a pretty substantial amount of office buildings that have pretty decent vacancy. And more to the point, they have Cs, I would call it, of impervious surface parking lots that are going unparked every day. And we had originally sold off some of our land behind 352 Turnpike when we originally bought the building to a very nice developer and neighbor and really great steward of the community, Bob Moss, who's a friend of mine, who's my diagonal neighbor in the community. And Bob expanded his project to add some additional townhomes because he was building a septic treatment system, and he could take the extra 18 or 20 units at the time in the town. It was beneficial from a 40B affordable, it increased the unit. So we kind of traded some of the land behind it. Now we're looking at the parking lot, which is in need of sort of updating anyway. And we're looking at our occupancy rate in the building itself, and the occupancy rate's okay. We're losing one of our big tenants to Westboro, which is Bowler on the top floor, so we'll need to re-tenant that. But we're hearing just a continuous sort of loop of people wanting to live and work closer to where they go every day, and they don't want to commute. Not that we think people necessarily who were proposing these apartments will want to work in the building next to them, but effectively, we are proposing a 40B project that has 68 units. That's very heavily centric on one-bedroom units that would be units for affluent residents that would be right off of 495 Turnpike Road and Mass Pike, and effectively next to Bob's project, which is Madison Place. So we thought from a location perspective, it wasn't a big hardship on the community from a population in terms of who might live at this location. I think the Madison Place is a great example because I think maybe there's 6 families out of that entire project, and it's about 3 or 4 times the size of this proposed project. In this project, we leaned it very heavily towards 1-bedroom units, which I think the count was 55 units, and six being 2 bedrooms, and then 7 being 3. So we stayed at what we would consider the state minimum ratios of smaller units to be less of an impact on the community and school system. And
Rent or for sale?
for rent.
Okay.
Yep. So all 25% would be affordable. And the way I would think of it is, you know, in terms of all the projects we have before the community now, this would be our 3rd. If all 3 were even permitted and successful, that would kind of put 160 total units into the mix, of which 40 would be affordable to the community. So the way I kind of see it is, you know, that's kind of like 40 classmates or people like my sister who can't afford to live in the community that could maybe come back to the community because there'd be affordable units in the community. I think that one of the projects that we had, and I think it's important to kind of look at it holistically, even though we're here to talk about 352. One of the projects that we had originally talked about with the select board was the project at 250. And we dramatically resized that project based on community feedback and what we thought would be a more acceptable and palatable kind of solution for the neighbors and kind of being in their backyard. So that went from really being a building to a series of townhomes that got halved in size. And so we were kind of looking at how could we still be productive in the community and get some of the affordable housing goals achieved and do it in a way that put Southborough really first. And I say, obviously, this is our project, but I think it's Southborough first. And I'll say that respectfully because of the following. If our 2 projects currently were approved, I think the community holistically is protected for a minimum of a decade, which means the control shifts back to all the residents in town, and the residents get to decide when and where a project is appropriately suited. And you, the select board, get to take that feedback and ultimately vote in a friendly or a non-friendly project. But based on census data and where we are as a community now, I think the 2 projects that we had before, if both of those were approved, we would end up in safe harbor. I think this project is kind of like the icing on the cake in terms of it's kind of what every community frankly wants, which is a project on the outskirts of their town at the very edge of the, you know, town line property lines, where it's not burdening, you know, traffic flows and impeding town resources in the center of town. Like you think of, I think of like a community like Westboro, which has a very bottlenecked center of town. This is really at the outskirts in at the edge of the town line between Southborough and Westboro. And more importantly, I think it just puts Southborough in a position to really protect its rural character for much more than a decade. And I say that because all of these units would be constructed as rental units, which would in turn give it full credit for the total project. And And my feeling is it puts Southborough back in the driver's seat. I think we were a little behind as a community in terms of where we could have been. And we got a taste of controversy, and that didn't go well. And now I think, you know, we're trying to forge a new path with, you know, residency buy-in. And the fact that this location has almost no residential neighbors or abutters and is already buttressing an existing 40B. This is not where people would typically buy their first house or first condo, but it is a place that they would rent and say, I can get on 495 and go to my job every day pretty quickly and conveniently. And so that was really the thinking behind the project. And from a sizing perspective, if you drive over to 352 now, what you would see is there's just acres of extra parking. So we live in a world now that I would call post-COVID parking ratios, which are kind of 3 to 4 to 1, 3 to 4 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet of building. And when you look at how overparked this building is, there's, you know, grass growing out of sections of the existing parking that's there, in large part because the satellite lots never got used, even at full leasing before COVID. Now, after COVID, with people kind of working 3 to 4 days a week, it's really overparked. So what we really did was came up with a solution. We were carving off some of the parking and then taking some of the existing parking and under it putting a septic system that would single off a lot that would give you enough septic to do the 68 apartments, of which 55 would be 1 bedroom. So they're like, you know, young professionals, 6 2-bedrooms and 7 3-bedrooms, which would be required. We don't really get, like, we could do the minimum, but we can't do under the minimum. And
So are you saying that the building's going to stand as a building, or are you trying to replace the building with the units?
no, the building is, this would be, the office building would remain.
Okay.
And the apartment building would be off to the left when you come into the parking lot.
Like 120 as far as what?
Yeah, it's kind of very similar to 120. And I think, like, you know, what I want the select board to understand and know from a commitment as a developer, either myself, George, or Brian, at any point, if it's even on a quarterly or monthly basis, you want to hear directly from us on any of these projects, you know, you just calendar it. If I can't be here, George or Brian will, but we want these to feel like friendly 40Bs in the community, and we don't want them to feel like a development that is forced on the community. We want to be able to let it stand on its merits for what it is, which is some affordable housing, but done in the most responsible parts of town. Like, I think the 120 thing, we don't need to rehash the whole thing, except to say that I think there's a great opportunity, and you have my commitment that if I can donate that land prior to year end and we can get that permitted, I'll do it. And you have my commitment that that will happen. And I really personally, and I started the meeting with it, and I'll finish my sort of comments on this. You know, when you get to where I am in life, you've sort of reached some point of normalcy. You've kind of had your business, you know, things happen, and this is another chapter of it. And I have truly very much appreciated the support of this board and the ZBA. Both have been extraordinary to work with, and the best of the best relative to all the communities that we've served in.
So for 352, are you ready to start putting it together?
Yeah, we have the concept plan, and we would ask for your opinion of what you think of the project. And then based on that, we would put it forward before the state to be, for lack of a better term, ahead of anyone else in the queue. To be totally transparent with you, our concern would be one or both of our existing plans get mired in legal litigation or problems. And then the town's left kind of naked with this overhang, and somebody else kind of gets ahead of us with the state and gets a, what's the term of our
Project eligibility.
project? Yes, that's it, Sam, a project eligibility letter. And so this for us was a way to ensure that we're that much further ahead in the project eligibility letter. And frankly, if one of the two of ours didn't meet like whatever legal like issues and sat in limbo, the town would have satisfied its cap. Total transparency.
Andrew?
Well, I feel good that, you know, you go back the same time last year where we still haven't met the 10%, you know,
Right.
nothing has actually been built in the last 10 years, but I think a lot of progress has been made, and there's now, and with this one, 3 active applications, so I think you consider that this is going to happen, that
Something's going
sufficient
to happen.
number of these will get permitted and built that we will hopefully in the near term.
You know, and I know
Finally
you
get
guys
over
know it.
10%.
You don't get shut out if you're in the queue. So you don't shut out unless the permit's been issued. That's when it starts counting toward the 10%.
But
Right.
So you're
just looking at, the plans here, I think some parts of it which are appealing are you're looking to reduce some of the impervious surface that exists there.
Right. We're looking to use the,
building on it, yeah.
a lot of the parking lot area. Yeah.
And then in one of the plans, this wouldn't be anything that would go to mass housing, but there's a proposed 6,000 square foot building for a restaurant and retail.
Retail, yeah, at the front. Yes.
So that's something that's at a very conceptual level.
It is, yes. Yeah. And that's not part of the 40B per se, but it's trying to be open as to what direction we would see. I think like,
So there's some elements of mixed use in there, not all in one building, but you've got office, residential, and
restaurant.
retail.
Mm.
Yeah,
Right.
which we could use more of in town.
We definitely could.
yeah, I mean, I think I tried to get admitted to the Southborough Community Group. I've been rejected 3 times. So I'm on day 5 requesting the same reason, but for something unrelated to development, which is ironic, related to the school system. In any event, if anybody has a good contact with one of the special ed teachers at Neary, I would appreciate it. I already met with the superintendent last fall, but that's a separate matter we can talk about offline. But anyway, Neary School was very, very good to me, and Marcia Bachman spent a lot of her hours time with me on my dyslexia.
Mm.
Yeah.
I spent some time looking at the plans and going by the site, and I agree with your assessment. I think the impact on the schools is going to be pretty modest. The last time I looked at Madison Place, which was some time ago, the impact on that entire development on our school systems was very modest. I think it was
There's 20 kids in school system right now.
yeah, the number of 17 sticks in my mind. So it's, I don't think there's a particular concern about developments like this putting undue pressure on our schools and school budgets. So I would encourage you to move expeditiously, and I think the select board ought to support this wholeheartedly, and if a letter needs to be drafted, I'd be happy to draft another one.
Thank you, Al.
No, thank you. I'm now remembering a point which I wanted to mention. The balloon test.
Right.
What is the status? I saw an email about a date for the balloon test.
Yes.
So- Okay, so.
George is an expert on helium now.
Okay, all right.
120.
So this is.
The engineer.
This is significant because it looks like you're proposing it's a 6-story.
Yeah,
And 120, the proposed is the same, right?
no, so that's an important
4,
thing.
okay.
I really want to make, and that's why I think like check-ins and
Yep.
I don't want to, but you guys have a,
Moving and changing so fast, it's
Yeah.
sometimes helpful to have.
you have a very full schedule, but I want to make this commitment to the extent you ever want more detail rather than less. There's a lot of other things we could talk about as well, but I'm staying on point and message tonight. But the point is the fluidness of compromise with all of these projects changes to the week. And I think we were sort of surprised that when we surprised them at the last meeting, when the meeting before it was 6 stories is never going to work. The fire trucks, we heard the feedback and we went back to the engineers and literally threw away the entire engineering plan and went to a different footprint with a 5-story building. And it was sort of like crickets. Like, anyway, so that's what we're floating.
It's 5.
5 at 120 now.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just mentioning that because that can give you a kind of rough sense.
Of what this could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Topography is a little bit different.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
And Dave, is the look of the building at 120 going to change?
I'd leave that to George. It did a little bit.
The look, you mean, I don't know if we produced architecturals yet. Are you referring to the exterior of the building?
No, because sometimes people say it'll be a block and other people say, no, it will look like townhouses.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So
yes.
where-
So yeah, that's a very good question. So
Hey, guys, we should be careful here. 120 is not on the agenda tonight. It's 3:52. So we should probably not go too much further with 120.
Yep.
This is inspired.
Yep. Oh, thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you.
we can bring him back for 120. Sam?
I'm not sure I'm inspired yet, but
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
And as everybody is well aware, the select board is not in the permitting pipeline here. In
Right.
fact, my impression, having lived through a number of these, is that Mass Housing doesn't really care what the select board thinks particularly. But I appreciate your being here and talking with us about it.
Yeah.
I think the location is pretty interesting, and I think my interest has always been to find a way to get to the 10% threshold.
Right.
So this gives us at least any two of these that would be in the pipeline now would actually do that
Correct.
to the near term, which is, I think, a better place to be in. So, and as you suggest, I think this has a number of interesting attributes to it in terms of location. So I certainly support moving ahead with this.
Thanks, Sam. I really would, because we're on record, say to the community of Southborough, because I grew up here and I have a lot of neighbors that hear affordable housing and they don't fully understand that these projects, when put in responsible areas, actually protect the residents because it really puts the decision-making back at the ZBA, the select board, the planning board level for future developments in the community where they might not be favorable. So if you can put good housing in the right locations in town on parking lot areas that aren't burdening and like kind of in the backyards of a lot of other people in town, and you get over that 10% cap, it really kind of isolates and gives control back to the residents.
Yep.
And that's really the message I just want to keep hammering home to people who talk to us about these affordable projects. And I think the other part that we need to always remind people of is we live in a very affluent community. And so affordable housing in a community like this is really a lot of very hardworking people. This is not Section 8 housing where we're giving out vouchers. These are discounted apartments for working people to be able to rent that are the exact same quality as the apartment next door to them. And so these are people with significant incomes and who have, real jobs.
Andrew?
I don't have anything further.
Yep.
All right, so thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So then the next step is you're gonna,
Apply to the state for project eligibility.
okay, yep.
And then file with the ZBA for comprehensive permit.
We have to get a project eligibility.
George got a quote of Brian got a quote of $2,100 to float the balloons. And I said, Brian, if you spend $2,100 on a balloon, we have a problem. So George became the balloon expert. So George
Are
is
you gonna hold the balloon?
Go to Price Chopper. They sell helium balloons.
Right.
So-
Believe it or not, you can buy a lot of helium to fill a weather balloon.
Yeah.
They came into my house. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a nice evening.
We will. Nice to meet you in person, George.
You as well.
I've heard a lot about you. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to the first public comment. Vanessa, is anyone in the audience with their hand raised? Okay, so now let's go to reports. So I will start out because this is a big report I'm about to do. Okay, Neary Building Committee, everything is coming to a head either next Monday, most likely, or the following Wednesday. Jason's got 2 meetings set up to do the vote on the project that the Neary Building Committee is going to put forth to town meeting next April. So here we are, it's less than a week away. We have posted a select board meeting for this Friday at 1 o'clock for anyone that wants to come and listen to the Neary Building Committee Finance Subcommittee, of which I'm chair, Andrew Favas on it, and a guy named Mark Davis. We're going to be the ones then that are going to go through the latest estimates that we got today to talk about what we really think that the cost of the 3 choices we have are today with the knowledge that we have. So that's going to be Friday at 1 o'clock. So anybody can join. We've got a meeting posted, right? We're legal, okay? Then we're going to make sure everybody has all this information so they can stew on it over the weekend, review it, et cetera, to be ready for the Monday night vote, which is in person at the Public Safety Building at 5 o'clock now. I think he's moved it up to 5, right? And we're going to post a meeting for that too, in case you want to go, so that anybody, they can say something. I mean, this is a big decision, guys. We've never had a project anywhere near as big as this money-wise. So this is it. It's coming to a head really fast. Okay,
You want to talk about Recreation Commission vacancies?
not yet.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not through with this one.
Oh, I didn't know that. You
Well,
had
that's
a pause.
I
and
did
then
pause because I want to see if you're going to say, I'm trying to get a reaction here. It's a members report, so no, we're not going to do a full-fledged discussion. I just want to make sure everybody understands this is coming. And I'm still not convinced that this has truly been absorbed by the town. At our last meeting, not one person was in the audience. Beth Mello did a great post as far as truly outlining everything. Not one person commented on that. So I don't know if people are still on vacation or they think that they're going to opine at the special town meeting next April when it's too late. You're either going to vote it up or down. So I'm hoping that we'll get some more comments on Friday and possibly Monday. All right. Everybody got that? Okay, so remember, we're trying to advertise certain positions on committees that are vacant each meeting we have. So tonight, the advertisement is the Rec Commission. So it's full right now, but there are two people that are about to step down. If they have stepped down, I'm not aware of it. They want to get a replacement first. They're trying to make sure that it's a seamless transition. So they're trying to recruit two people to fill those jobs. Beth Mello did a post a few weeks ago that acted like it was already vacant and it was kind of puzzling, but it's because they're trying to make sure that they don't leave it high and dry. So there is a need to have two new people step up to replace those two people on the Rec Commission. All right. All right. Who's next? Mark? No, Al.
Okay, Sam and I have been busy. We had most of our time in the last week or two has been in dealing with the concept of the virtual rec. The chiefs and Mark set up a meeting with representatives from Northborough, Ashland, and Westborough, and they got the virtual rec presentation to determine whether there was any interest from our neighboring communities in this concept. I have not heard of any as of yet. I had a conversation with one of the people at the State 911 Commission about whether it was possible that the state would be interested in funding a virtual rec. He was not encouraging. We're going to try one other avenue at the state. But at this point, I think we're at a position where I think we need to begin holding public forums to talk about what our choices are and the path going forward. So I think over the next month, we're going to need to schedule somewhere between 2 and 3 public forums to actually discuss this in a broader context.
I just second what Al says, might be more than a month to do these, but basically, and Al, just to rehash a little bit for people, the concept of the virtual rec, interesting one where all the participants would actually keep their physical dispatch centers in place as they exist today, and we would connect them electronically, so they would basically act like they were one team. And there's a number of things that have to happen from a training standpoint and other procedural things that have to happen. But in theory, that could happen technically these days. But I think the concern is from a practical standpoint, it's pretty clear that the chiefs, not only our chiefs, but other chiefs are not there yet. So it is sort of like pushing on a string if we were likely to push in that direction. And that costs time and money to do that. And particularly if the state is not on board to fund it, that's a major hurdle as well. So again, we will follow up to finish out the conversation with the state just to be sure that that's what they believe, but that's the indication so far. And in the meantime, then we, I think, need to move forward with our current process in terms of working with Westborough Rec, which is moving along as they had originally planned. And there are a number of questions about that one as well that we'll work to resolve, but that's sort of the direction currently.
So Alan's saying we need to get those meetings scheduled, and we're going to try to have 2 or 3 meetings between now and town meeting.
Yep.
This is
Yes.
August 6th. Okay.
I think Sam and I will pull together a draft schedule and see where we can go.
All right, Andrew.
Yes.
Does Al have a one-stop update?
Andrew's doing the one-stop
Oh,
update.
I'm sorry, okay.
Just want to update everyone that some point in July, I appeared together with Kathy at a planning board meeting where We informed them that one of the select board goals was to have a successful one-stop grant application focused on a study of Route 9 zoning, and that my purpose in letting them know that was so that they're aware of it and can contribute any feedback or input that they feel would be appropriate, and also recognizing that, you know, if we're successful in getting this grant, we ultimately don't want any study that comes out of it to just gather dust on a shelf, but to be something that the planning board would consider. So I was asking for basically just kind of the conceptual buy-in from the planning board for pursuing a grant application like this, and I'm pleased that the planning board unanimously voiced support and interest for our doing this. And I think the timing works out in that if we were successful in applying for and getting for this grant, any completed study would come after the MBTA communities. The work associated with that is completed. One other update I want to give to people is on the Affordable Housing Consolidation Working Group, which we approved that charge at one of our last meetings. Pleased to report that on last Friday, we held our first meeting. It was a publicly posted meeting. And Al and I were there from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee. Doug Mance and Paul Desmond from Shopsy and Lisa Brasio. I thought it was a great meeting where we identified what we think are some, you know, the basic structure of our proposed bylaw. So I'm cautiously optimistic that with just a couple of meetings or two, we'll be in a position where for our last meeting in August, we'll be able to have some draft language to be included in the warrant about that. I think the preliminary plan is that we would take the provision of the Southborough bylaw that created Shopsy, and then we would, in that same provision, put in place our new Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee language about that, combining the two mission statements of the two organizations, which are very, very similar. So stay tuned about that.
All right, thank you. Mark?
Thank you. A couple of quick things. First, just some scheduling items for upcoming meetings. We're looking at a special meeting the last week of August, Tuesday, August 27th. I think the main purpose of that is to try to get the warrant ready for a special town meeting so that we can have everything in pretty good shape. And make sure that Jay Talaman has sufficient time to review everything. Also a special meeting, and the chair can correct me if I screw this up, special meeting on September 11th at 6:30 PM with the Neary School Building Committee, no,
K through 8.
K through 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're trying, remember, you have it on your schedule. We
They'll
talked
be,
about
yeah,
it.
they'll be taking,
They're replacing the gentleman that moved from Southborough, so they have advertised for it. So it's a joint appointment between the school committee and select board. So we're first on the agenda. It will be at Trottier in person, 9/11, 6:30. Assuming they have someone to apply for it.
okay, so all I got right on that was the date.
Yep.
Good start.
Yeah, I'll take it. Update on the public safety staffing study. The consultant did get a draft report to the chiefs and to me. We have reviewed that. We've gone back with some changes and tightening up some of the data points. And I am hoping that in the next week can present that to you for final in its final form. And then you can get a sense of, how we want to move forward with some of the recommendations. I think that it's, without really getting into the draft itself, because some things may change. There's a good number of positions across police, fire, and communications that the consultant is, suggesting, should be considered, moving forward, in the near and a little more, far out there future, for the department. So, there's going to be a lot for the board to take a look at and to consider in there. So we'll hopefully have that out to you, within the week. Second, again, a lot of information coming back all at the same time. The Division of Local Services has issued their financial policy manual, a report back to the town. This was half of the work that they would do, and the other half being a review of the financial operations. Would have been nice to see them both together. Kind of would have been nice to see the operations piece first, but this is how they chose to do it. The finance team is taking a look at the financial, the policies, and, hopefully we'll be getting those to you within the same time frame, end of this week, beginning of next week. And I just want to point out a couple of things. This is not a document I think the board is going to be able to look at and, make a couple of amendments and accept it globally. There are policies in here that are updating current policies that the town has. There are policies in here that the town does not currently have. There are policies that assign responsibilities to employees that employees do not currently have. There are responsibilities that are assigned to certain employees that are currently being done by other employees. There is also some of these policies are conditional upon certain technology upgrades, things of that nature. So there's a lot of moving pieces. I think this is going to be something that's going to take some time. And I think, the finance team will be coming back and trying to give you the first tranche of this and looking at policies that are updating what we currently have. And then we can, begin to move forward from there. So we can give you everything. You'll see the whole report, but I think that's the suggestion that may come back from the finance team. We're going to meet hopefully sometime next week and begin to try to, put together some thoughts and path forward for this.
Does this represent the recommendation from DLS about
Yes.
how we should be operating?
It does. I think it basically takes a look at best practices around the state and says, this is what we would suggest for a policy for free cash, for investment, for, all those-
Stabilization.
for stabilization, for capital stabilization, for, a lot of those different things.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you have it, it should be disseminated to advisory at the same time.
Correct.
They need to get it too. so they can
Exactly.
start looking at it.
Yes, advisory and select board. So, I think that's it.
All right, moving on. Consent agenda. We've got A through G. Anyone want to hold any minutes?
Yep.
Which
A.
ones? Which one?
The 16th of July.
Okay, the other two are fine?
Yep.
Everybody, anybody else for those two? You've got what?
The 10th?
Okay, so the 10th and the 16th. The 23rd is fine? Right?
Yep.
Good, because I did them. I saved us $150.
Thanks.
Okay, so, anybody else want to hold anything? B, C, D, E, F, and G? Al, anything to hold?
Nope.
Okay, so, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Marguerite,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Al,
Aye.
and Cook is aye, 5-0 for everything else. Okay, Marguerite, what is wrong with the 10th?
Okay, just on the 10th, very briefly, I would suggest on line 27 that it said Ms. Burns Fiore stated that the Tricentennial Committee had suggested a fundraiser for engraved memorial bricks that would be installed at the Southborough Heritage Park. Not that we're going to install the fundraiser. We're going to install the bricks.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing is Sam, unfortunately, is Ms. on line 57.
Which one?
Ooh,
Which
Line
one?
57, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so,
going to hold that announcement till later.
all right, so change Ms. to Mr.
I would just do that one. And then on line 47, Ms. Cook stated that Ms. Burns Fiore would interface with the Faith School. That's it.
Sticking with Mr. Stivers here on line 19. Did the board agree with this? On line 19, there should be an apostrophe S after Stivers, where it says the board agreed with Mr. Stivers' plan of action.
Thank you.
No, we are picky. Okay, anybody else on the 10th? Okay, all right, Sam, 16th?
16th, on line 45, talking about the Verizon issue, I would add a sentence that says, also attending, comma, via Zoom, comma, Attorney William Solomon, comma, who represents the town for this matter. They talk about the attorney later on here, so,
Okay, so add him.
and he was there in the Zoom audience, but he did not actually participate in the meeting. I think that's
Okay.
useful to add. That's it for me on the 16th.
Is that it?
Yep.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th as amended, July 16th as amended, and July 23rd.
Second.
Roll call vote, Marguerite, Sam,
Yes.
Andrew,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
and Cook is aye, 5-0. All right, back to other matters. Okay, so let's start. So Sam, I'm going to turn this one over to you. Let's talk about what you want to add as far as the section 3B.5. Let's start with that.
Okay. In the CPA legislation, state level legislation, when we approved the CPA process back in, I think it was 2005, the state law had certain language in there. Subsequently, state law was amended to add a new section that gave more flexibility for funding. And specifically, we were interested in this with the golf course irrigation project, where the proposal was made to get CPA funding for the irrigation project. We looked into contributing to some of that funding from the golf course revolving fund, because it does throw off cash each year. It has been and is expected to continue. Turns out that we're not allowed to do that under the law that we approved back in 2005. But subsequently, the CPA was amended to add the provision to do that by adding this new in section 5, 3B and 1/2, uniquely labeled by our legislature. So, what the proposal here is to actually amend our original CPA legislation that we approved to accept this new section 3B.5. And I'm not sure of the exact legal form for that. I have to work with town council on that, but would like to get that in the warrant to give us the option to use external funds other than the CPA surcharge to sweeten the pot, if you will, there for certain expenditures. It doesn't require us to do it. It doesn't require us to spend any extra money. It simply opens an option for us to consider other ways to fund here that other towns now have that we don't. So again, I view this as sort of an administrative kind of thing that gives the possibility of some flexibility, but doesn't require us to do anything specifically.
So I talked to Ben Smith today about this. He currently is all for it. They've got a meeting Thursday night. He's going to bring it up in front of the
Well,
committee.
CPC actually did talk about this when the golf course topic came up, and they looked into using the revolving fund money.
I understand. He knows that. So they're going to
Yeah,
vote Thursday night
so good.
to on this, and hopefully they'll support it. So I think this is easy.
Yeah, I view it as an administrative cleanup kind of thing, right?
All right, so you're going to figure out how to
Yep,
get it
I'll work with
in there?
town council, yeah.
Okay. Andrew, any comments on that?
I'm thinking,
So what I think it lets you do is, let's say, somebody wanted to donate $1 million to do something that CPA funds do, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a way to accept that. I think you could put trust funds in. I think you put ARPA money in. I think you could put lots of things in here.
There is,
I just don't see any downside.
there is a cap that
So-
that can't exceed
Oh, that's right.
3%.
That's right. So if you're already at 3%, you can't do
You can't
this.
do it, that's
But
right.
if you want, you can go up to, and I don't know how you do that measurement. What do? You look at what the 3% would be for the year, and that's what you,
Yeah, that's one of those devils in the details.
well, let's hope we have that problem, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But Andrew's still thinking.
no, are there examples of EPA projects we've done where they were funded ever, in part with CPA funds and in part with,
Not that I can think of,
Okay,
but
none
but
that
I
I can
don't
think of,
know,
but-
yeah.
it seems to create this path for the CPC to contingently support something. Well, we'll support this in part if there's a match from another part of the, you know,
Some other source.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm
That's not the
thinking through.
intent, so I don't want, I hope that's not where this
I hope
ends
that's
up.
not where it is, because
Um,
ultimately, we like it, we prefer projects to be funded with CPA funds as
First.
much as possible.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because it
first.
doesn't
Yeah.
hit the tax rate in the same way that it would if it was, you know, a.
And
capital
those
fund.
funds have to be used for specific purposes. Other
So I
funds.
think
don't.
as I'm thinking it through, that's still gonna be the case, that it's gonna be in everyone's benefit to use as much as possible CPA funds and as little as possible non-CPA funds to complete projects.
I think so.
The 61A land that we talked about over the last few months, the 20-something acres, I believe, and, correct me if I'm wrong, that CPC talked about them funding, they knew they couldn't fund the whole thing. They don't have $4 million, right? But they talked about funding some of it and letting the town fund the other piece of it. That's one case where you'd be doing part and part.
Westboro using this, Sam?
Not sure. No, don't know when they approved CPA. So you can find that out.
So are we supportive of putting this on there?
Yes.
Okay. Al?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've just added an article, okay? All right, so now let's go through the whole warrant. And not only order, we gotta talk about a couple of these that we really haven't talked about, if we're gonna keep them on there. So Sam has very graciously, organized the articles into 4 categories: operational, administrative, budget, and policy bylaw updates. Okay, so there's 2 that I think need to come off this, tonight. We're not gonna get there. CPA surtax, we're not gonna get there with this one. CPC does not support it currently. If we go through town meeting, you don't want them standing up and saying, don't do it. You can still do it at the annual, but I think that one's got to come off for now. And then the Stormwater Enterprise Fund advisory is not going to be ready. They've been tasked with coming through with that one as far as the proposal goes. So Andrew Pfeff agrees those 2 should come off for the moment. Anybody have an issue with that?
Nope.
Okay, so we added 1, we took off 2, so now we got 15. So mark through that one and that one. Okay. Now let's talk about ordering, and then we're going to talk about some of them substantively. So I think that I did talk to Paul Semino. He is going to do a consent agenda if there's ones that qualify for it. I think that, let's see, amend the town code pilot committee, amend the town code solid waste, amend the town code consumer advisory commission. Those are 3 that easily could go on the consent agenda if he so chooses. It's his call, but those are likely candidates, right?
Yep.
That's 3. I think you could put the SAP changes
Yep.
through there. So that might be 4, right? So that might be 4 that go consent. That takes 4. So 17, 15, now we're down to 11. So we're down to a reasonable number of articles as far as the special, as far as substantive stuff. Okay, so we talked about this last time. We got to decide tonight how we're going to order these articles, I think, so that Mark can start putting this together. So MBTA. I'll say I, not we, have promised Ms. Luttrell that we will do this really early so that people will be there to vote on this. If Paul starts off with consent, I think the first substantive article he's going to get to by 7:15, 7:30 is the latest. So I would still vote to start right off with MBTA and get it done. So I'm going to throw it out. You guys disagree or agree?
I think the big question is, will you lose your quorum afterwards?
I don't know, Al. There's so let's talk. There's still some pretty important things that come after. Anytime you got budget stuff, people usually stay for that. I think people are going to be interested in Atwood. I think they're going to be interested in rec. And I think they're going to be interested in possibly the Breakneck Hill Conservation extra money.
Well, on Atwood, are we ready where we would actually have a number to put into this article?
That was my question for Mark. I don't know. Bill sent an email and Tim Teese has said there's a report coming next week that they're going to be done as far as what needs to be done.
They've got they got most of the testing results in.
Yep, they got one more test to do.
And they're positive.
Yep. Yep.
Positive meeting.
Positive meaning the results are good for us in terms of
Okay.
where there may be contamination. There are limited areas.
Okay, not positive contaminant.
No, yeah, I know. Positive is just
I hate to
positive is
offend-
such a negative term, over the past several years for a lot of reasons, but yes,
Yeah,
good
the
result
report-
in the data.
Yeah, the report
So I don't-
basically,
Town and the neighbors.
So if we have that report in the next week, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to get the cost,
Correct.
right? So for now, I think it's going to be on.
Just an estimate of the cost, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, up to whatever.
I feel like Mimi wants the MBTA zoning to be early in the meeting, and I think people will be more clear-headed and alert early in the meeting. So
Of course.
I'll support putting it up at the top.
Of course. Okay, so I still haven't heard anyone say, don't put MBTA first as far as the first substantive article.
Yep, I think that works.
All right, so there's first.
You said first and first substantive.
Well, because I still think the four ones I read are going to be consent. So put those first.
Put
but do
those
the-
four
yeah,
first
yep.
and then that.
And then the
Okay.
next, the first
Yep.
substantive is MBTA. Okay,
Sure.
now, next, anybody want to make a suggestion for what's next?
I think we got some money articles potentially. The Breakneck Hill, Atwood, Public Safety Staffing Study might be some money.
We're going to talk about that in detail in just a minute.
EDC, I think of them in lumps of, got some budget stuff and then we got some.
So
other
you want to do
policy.
the budget stuff next?
Um,
And there's four of them.
yeah,
And article number 1 is overlay. So that's not gonna, so nothing out of that is gonna affect.
So he can do that in consent
Yeah.
too. So add that as a
Yeah.
potential consent one.
Sure. Okay.
So I think,
correct me if I'm wrong, this is a change to the overlay reserve.
He's changing the budget out and he's going to use his overlay reserve to fund it. So it's not going to affect the
Okay, all right.
tax levy or tax rate or anything else. So he's got a source for it. So he's basically saying, I want
Right,
to change
yeah.
this budget and then I'm going to pay for it with my overlay reserve. I'm going to take it out of that.
Okay,
so I
um,
think, that- Al, if I can jump in here, I think that a lot of decisions about the ordering of articles after MBTA depends on whether there's going to be a rec article on the warrant. And I still hold out some hope. I don't know what.
yes,
So let's assume there is, and let's put
okay.
it someplace.
We're
And if it comes.
pushing hard to do that, yep.
Yep,
Yes.
Let's assume there is. So you want rec next, Andrew, after MBTA?
I don't think it should be last because of the experience we had before.
yeah, I agree.
I said next, I didn't say last.
Yes, okay, I
Yeah, I'd go next.
go next.
I said MBTA, then rec,
So we have a robust consent list
Okay.
Yep.
and then MBTA, then
then
rec.
rec. Okay, and maybe the budget ones.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the police staff study in a second, but let's keep it on there for a second. So we've got four budget ones: Breakneck Hill, Atwood, EDC coordinator, and public safety implementation of the study.
Yep.
Okay,
All right, is that meaning that the Shopsy Affordable Housing Trust Fund is falling?
it's falling,
Towards the end.
pretty far
Yep.
down.
Toward the end.
Okay,
Okay.
wish I could maybe lobby to get it moved up a little bit, but
Before the budget one?
That's what we're doing here tonight. You can lobby all you want to. So you want to move it in front of the budget stuff?
Maybe in front of the budget.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's do that there, yep.
All right.
So wait a minute.
So MBTA,
Yep.
rec,
Yep.
affordable housing. And then
The
I
new-
would,
The new committee.
yes, but I'd put the money part in there
Yeah.
right after. They're related.
Yep,
If we're going to
they
go
are,
for
yeah, I
that,
do both
right
of
after
them.
that.
That's right together.
So the two of them, right? So you've got the money too, the transfer. So
Yeah,
the transfer CPA, so put that right after the committee change.
I'm
Yep.
still not sold on having that on the warrant yet, just because I think that I feel optimistic that if we, first off, there's no great rush to do this
Right.
on the fall.
But if you did have it there, wouldn't you want to put it right after the committee change?
You would have it after, immediately after.
Be helpful to get it
All right,
done.
so we can
Yeah,
take it off.
yeah.
Let's at least figure out where we put it if we were going to do it. Right?
Okay,
Okay, then after that, we're going to put the four budget ones.
Yep.
Okay, then, let's see what we got left here. We got town meeting date. And that may be it.
and the town meeting date, the substance of that again is to
Do we
no
wait?
longer have it be
The last,
required to be a Saturday?
no longer be required to be held no later than the last Saturday in March.
Vanessa has her hand up.
Right now, we think it's going to be
leave that number-
consent. We got it up there. Leave it, yeah, leave it up there, but we think. Yes, yeah, no, we think it's going to be consent.
Yep.
And if not, we'll get it, we'll do it real quick.
Where did our section 3B.5 come in?
That one should be right after these, the affordable house thing, because they're all related,
Yeah.
right? So put it right, so sorry, so that is one, I didn't have this, that one written down.
Yeah.
So his should come right after the reformation of the two committees.
Before the budget.
Yep.
And after.
Because
the-
Andrew's
and
right,
after the
that's not
tran-
gonna
And
keep
after the
people there.
transfer, if it stays in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Got it.
correct.
Yeah. Okay, so do we want to keep, so this is where we got to talk. We really haven't talked about, do we want to put forth an article to change the language of when the annual town meeting has to be held?
Why not? I think it's a good idea to do it.
So if you were to just get rid of this bylaw, then it would be up to this, it would be, the select board could just pick any date for annual town meeting that by this, under the statute, I think it has to be within certain months.
Yep.
Right?
Before the end of June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have flexibility
And
at
that's
that
what,
point.
now before, was it just governed by a norm that the select board always had it within a certain,
I thought there was a bylaw.
okay, there was a bylaw before this current bylaw? Okay,
Yes, there definitely was.
all right.
Because it was always around April 15th. Forget the COVID years, but before it was always around April 15th.
I mean,
How do I know that?
why-
I was
yeah.
tired. Okay.
Why should we
Uh,
have a bylaw for it? Why don't we have flexibility? Seems to me to be reasonable. I mean, again, clearly we have to work with the finance team to pick a date that actually does what they need to do to get all the budget stuff done in time with the state cycle and so forth.
It might make more sense to simply have a bylaw that says that the select board shall establish the date of the annual town meeting prior to some date.
I like that.
But I mean, that's what the state law already says, so.
Yeah, we'll
there's
put
really
that,
no
whatever
point.
the state law date is, so it's gotta be before that. As long as it's before that, we've got flexibility.
So,
good word.
so the easy way here is to just to remove the existing bylaw.
Yeah.
And the case for that would be that establishing the Saturday date has not led to a dramatically increased turnout.
No, we tried, and it's very hard on us to do it. It's hard to get the budget done, right? And that's a reason to not do it.
And
is-
our survey said that people prefer weeknights
That's
at this
right.
point.
That's
But
right.
again, having no requirement other than, whatever the state says, gives us flexibility to continue to experiment with this and look for other ways to do it, frankly, which,
So do people ordinarily know what the state requirement is if the town doesn't tell them? I've got people on my street who've never been to a town meeting.
well, the state has budget requirements, so we got.
Yeah, that's why it has
financial
to
stuff
be
done
before
by
June.
So we,
certain
so the
times.
opposite of a bylaw for us would be that people are in town and they don't know how to look it up through what the states. I mean, this is real hand holding.
Sort of, yeah.
So do we want to do this? I agree.
I like what Al said and just have it like before the end of June or whatever the states.
Yeah, we
So
can- I
then we
would
would
say,
do
well-
that by just
Vote.
voting to eliminate the bylaw. And
Yeah.
then it
Yeah,
would just be
yeah.
up to the select board.
Like we do with special town meetings, for example.
Yeah,
we set a
exactly.
date. Yeah,
Sam,
I go for that.
Andrew?
Yeah, and it's one of those where town meeting would decide, we'd just live with whatever. If town meeting felt that we wanted to stick with the Saturday date, then that's what we do.
I mean.
But I think the time is right for a discussion about whether we should be required
Yeah.
to do it on
To do it.
Saturday.
Right, but this gives us total flexibility if we change it with the way we're talking about. So I like. the
So
flexibility.
is that the last article?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the current bylaw, I don't think serves the advantage of the public or residents particularly, frankly.
Well, the survey backs you up on that. We've seen the turnout. It hasn't been great. And we know how rushed our budget season is trying to get it done.
Okay.
Brian Ballantyne, I bet, will be happy.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've agreed, correct, Al?
Yep.
Okay, right now, the two, what we got to go back to as far as substantive stuff, we really haven't talked about it, is the implementation of public safety staffing study. There is a lot in the study. Mark's given me the Cliff Notes version of it. I don't think we can do this before this special time meeting. There's a lot to consider, truly. There's a lot of positions that are being suggested to be added. It's going to be a big impact to the public safety budgets, both sides of it, fire and police. So I just don't think we can get this done because we've really got to sit down and think about this. Advisory has got to be part of this to come on board. So I don't think we can get this done before the special. I think it's got to go to, I think we've got to have time to digest it, talk, and then get it ready for annual.
I agree. I
Okay.
mean, given that I haven't even seen the study yet, so, and if it's gonna have a major budget impact and,
It is.
Mark, do you think it will be the kind of thing where both fire and police will separately need to set out like 10 years of hiring, how they want to do it in steps? Is it going to be that involved?
So again, we've talked a little bit about, so short answer, yes. Right? I think that, this board has, talked about, the possibility of a second lieutenant, during our budget summit this past year. We talked about a deputy fire chief. We talked about that through the recruitment process for our new chief. There's a lot of things in here that the board is going to have to decide how they're going to be implemented, if they're going to be implemented, and what, working with the chiefs to determine priorities on certain things. So I agree. I think this is something that's going to take a lot more. You can't simply, make a decision and say, okay, let's go for it. We've got a lot of things on the table, and this is going to take some thought.
I thought though, the conversation earlier we had with particularly Chief Newell, he was under a lot of pressure operationally. And I thought the hope was we could actually do something at special town meeting to relieve some of that at least. So my question, I guess, is there enough in this staffing study that we need to do X for the police department near term? And that's pretty clear, and it's not going to change if we wait another 6 months or a year to do it. That's going to be included, that we might as well do it now.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the weeds on this, Sam, I think there's more options
Okay.
on the police side than anything else.
Okay, so it's
Right?
not-
So I think for the chief to, and I've already kind of had that conversation with Chief Newell is, assuming that the final report, the recommendations are going to stay fairly consistent, you're going to have to take a look at this and determine, it could be up to a dozen positions.
Yeah, there's at least
Right?
9.
So
counting,
I
it's a
think,
lot.
so he's gonna have to think about, what would I want to do
First.
first? What makes the most sense? What's the best case?
I guess I would be interested if we could get any feedback. And again, I don't
Yeah.
know, I know there's stuff that we need with the fire department as well. But it seemed to me police was the most urgent to address. And if there's something in there that Chief Newell says, I looked at all the options here, and if there's one thing that I could do near term that I'm not going to have regret about later, I want to go ahead and do it. I'd be willing to consider that for special town meeting.
Yeah,
But
so
again,
I think the chief is already starting to put those things together in anticipation of the final report. So once you get the report,
Okay.
you can begin to digest and the chiefs can begin to have those conversations.
I'd like,
So we'll bring it back up on the 27th,
Okay,
right? We'll
good,
have him
yeah.
come in
Yeah.
and just say,
Okay.
we can't implement school resource officer, detective, court officer, 5 new patrolmen, and a lieutenant,
yeah,
all in overnight.
Absolutely.
And then fire's you've got the deputy there and something else there too, so it's a lot.
Yep.
So so let's have him in on the 27th and let's
Okay.
see if maybe there is something that he definitely knows he wants, it's in there, and maybe we get one
work
thing
work
done.
to address it.
And I think in the same vein, this is going to be provided back to select board, but shortly thereafter provided to advisory because,
Yes.
Yep.
Chair has already noted, it's got to be a joint,
Yep.
a joint decision on how to move forward on this.
Absolutely.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think we invited.
I think
Tuesday.
the reality is these are long-term decisions that, particularly hiring decisions and we need to proceed carefully and thoughtfully on this. I think a rushed approach is inadvisable.
All right, so I think we agree not to rush, but maybe have him come in and let's start the conversation and see where it goes.
It is our EDC position.
Okay,
still on
so
the
now,
board?
this is one, Al, that we've talked about for a while, previous select boards, it was a split vote. Advisory did not support this, so I mean, I don't care if it's a 1-4 vote, I really would like to see this position made full-time. Leah needs more hours to do the things that she needs to do. She's good. I know you don't do it because of the person, but I really think it's time to see what a full-time coordinator could do as far as trying to with all these business issues we have in this town.
I certainly support that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, if we did that, what happens to the money there then? We did it in September.
Well, we're gonna literally amend the budget, so we're gonna have more, more in the budget than what we had in March, right?
That'd be a reason appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, will we also have to modify the benefits budgets?
Probably.
Probably.
I'm gonna say probably, Al. You know, we run really thin in terms of what we carry, you know, in anticipation that something changes during the year. And knock on wood, we've been very fortunate that we have not gotten caught short in that. So we may have to add another set of benefits.
Well, I mean, the reality is that right now, you know, our economic development is headed in the wrong direction.
That's an understatement,
And,
yeah.
you know, now the question, I guess, big question I have is, can we actually do anything about it? I'd
know,
like to
I'm
think
just
we
worried.
can.
I'm at the
think
point, I
it's
just
a
want
good
to
chance.
try and see what she can do, and, you know, we can meet with her and see what she thinks she accomplished with the 40
The
hours.
marginal cost of adding the additional hours, you know, it does adjust the benefits budget, but it is not in the grand scheme of things, a lot of money.
I know it's not a huge sum of money, but you know, we're seeing you know, I'll simply point out that we've had about a 10% increase in headcount in the last 10 years, and we haven't seen any a corresponding increase in population. And we're just about, you know, we're talking about a massive increase on the public safety side. So I have to put my fiscal conservative hat on for 30 seconds. Look, we need more business in town. There's no question about it. And I'm willing to try as well, but I think we need to make sure that we have performance standards in place so we really understand, you know, that we're actually achieving some results.
But that's great. So that's 5-0 for us. That will help. It's unanimous.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're going to have it on there. All right. So we've gone through all of the articles. We have ordered them. So I think we have completed that task. Anybody have any other questions or issues on the warrant?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So you and Al are going to figure out what dates you want to add to the schedule as far as rec public forums. Okay. All right. Let's see. Where are we? So we're done, I think. Public comment. Vanessa, anybody else in the audience for public comment? All right. Okay, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote. Marguerite. Sam.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
Kathy, 5-0.